Right, I'm doing another one of these because the last one went down fairly well. Um, Wait, he got copyright strikes, didn't he? So, ordinarily that's a bad thing, but, it's Jeremy, so that's actually quite funny.
2 minutes of opening credits that do nothing for nobody.
Yeah, you know what makes a joke funny? Is just repetition. Completely predictable repetition. Nothing funnier than that.
Ricardo Montalban? How could I possibly sit through this movie and not make like 1001 Fantasy Island jokes? And yeah, I know he was in that one episode of Star Trek that one time.
Yeah, cool. He acknowledges an actor did something else. Phenomenal.
Reading. Also,
Hang on. Did was that a sin? Reading. This is 4 words, one of which is a number. In fact, I'd say this is 6 words. You have more words on your screen right now that you've put here than are actually on the screen here. Why?
what about in the 23rd century? What about it, huh? What about it?
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, Jeremy. You see those 3 dots? That means something else is going to happen. There's more yet to come. Shouldn't have to explain this.
About it!
Starship Enterprise on training mission to Gamma Hydra.
Movie drops Enterprise name into the Kobayashi Maru test, pretty much only to try and trick the viewing audience into thinking this opening sequence is real and not the Kobayashi Maru.
That's interesting. This is 1982. This is the first introduction to the concept of the Kobayashi Maru. So it's weird that Jeremy says, oh, we're just tricking people into thinking this isn't the Kobayashi Maru. In context, that means absolutely nothing to the audience right now. It's just not a thing in 1982. But also, yeah, these trainees are training for the Enterprise, so why would they not have the Enterprise configuration for the Kobayashi Maru test? So it's not like, oh, this was a fake out, and actually knowing it's a fake out makes the entire scene not make sense. It still makes sense, and in fact it would make less sense if it wasn't the Enterprise.
Maru. Jeez. Spock, Uhura, Bones, and Sulu? Could the movie be trying any harder to make me think this isn't a Starfleet Academy test?
I mean, why would they not be there? This is kind of the point of having junior officers and senior officers participate in training exercises. It's so, the junior officers can learn from the senior officers. Otherwise, yeah, they don't really learn much from each other. I mean, they learn some stuff, but yeah, having senior officers in training exercises, very valuable.
Also, are we really to believe these 3 super senior officers are spending their time play acting as junior bridge officers for the sake of college students?
I've already actually addressed that one by accident, so whoops.
Stand by.
Nice dramatic turn entrance, but what the were you doing just now facing the science officer's ass? In other words, dramatic turn for the sake of dramatic turn.
She was doing a captain's log, wasn't she? I swear, in the film itself, she was doing a captain's log.
Is dramatic turn.
Klingons on attack course and closing.
Don't worry, it's those exact same Klingons in the exact same formation from the exact same shot in the first Star Trek movie. V'ger will take care of it.
Okay, I quite like this one. I also like how I paused exactly at this moment. But yeah, that is the same shot of those 3 Klingon ships. So it indicates that he demonstrates that he remembers Star Trek the Motion Picture. This is a reused shot, and it's a nice bit of trivia, and he remembers what V'ger is, which, for Jeremy, I'm just impressed he remembers who he is and where he is, but, yeah, the fact he remembers what V'ger is, very impressive. So, yeah, I like this one, because it demonstrates knowledge, and, yeah, it's poking a bit of light fun. The joke falls flat, but it still demonstrates a little bit of knowledge, so I like that.
Will take care of it. This is a simulation, right? Why would you put something that dangerous in a simulation? Or is Sulu really that great of an actor?
Yeah, it's very clearly confirmed afterwards that this is acting. In World War II reenactments, or some of them at least, they'll have anti-personnel mines. Obviously not real mines, but they'll have like a very, very small charge, and they'll be packed in with flour. So when you step on it, you get a very big white puff of smoke. Looks very, looks very fun, and then it's up to the reenactor to sell it by throwing themselves backwards and going down. Similar thing here, it's just this is now a training exercise, so I guess selling the sizzle in a war game and having a little bit of authenticity, yeah, not out of the realms of possibility.
And now we find out it's a simulation. None of what we saw mattered. Still, this fake action is better than the first movie, which I think is still going on.
So that's an interesting one. Jeremy says, what does he say? Word for word. None of what we saw mattered. Everything we see in the Kobayashi Maru test gets brought up several times in the film and has kind of ongoing themes. So this is Savik's character journey and also part of Kirk's character journey as well. And the other characters here also kind of participate in that journey as well, a little. I mean, I don't think Sulu has a journey really, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame really how underused a lot of the supporting cast is. But yeah, to say none of what we saw mattered, I'm not sure how you could come to that conclusion after watching the film, so I must assume Jeremy has not watched the film.
Which I think is still going on.
What about my performance?
Your performance? It's Sulu's that was the best in this scenario, and looks like he pulled off another amazing feat by disappearing from this scene altogether.
That's an interesting one. So, firstly, Bones did do
Sulu's
quite
that
an
was the best.
Bones did do quite an interesting performance there. But no, that's not what I wanted to do. Full screen, please. No, it's not full screening. Cool.
I think is still going on.
Yeah. So he says Sulu's not in this scene, right? So just remember this. So this, what was it? The cuff thing? I forget what this is called. But yeah, remember yellow, this insignia. Just remember that. No, that's not fast forward.
Wouldn't it be?
Ah, George Takei!
Whoa, what do you know? Yellow band, same insignia. So that means Jeremy, in a scene with Sulu in the shot, said Sulu is not in the scene. When he was literally in the shot and we were looking right at it. Look, there aren't many people here, but Kirk did say trainees report to the briefing room or something like that. So the trainees are gone. It is just the senior officers here. So it's not like, oh, this could have been literally any other random cadet. No, it was Sulu. He's one of the 4 people in the room right now. Anyway, so stupid little thing that you'd catch if you watch the film.
Kirk collects old revolvers and old ships. What marvelous character development by set design.
Okay, a few things. One, these are not revolvers. They're old, but I think they're either flintlock or matchlock, or I'll be fully honest. I don't know the difference, but I do know those pistols are older than revolvers. Old ships, yeah, he's got old ships. So a lot of shows today, they tend to do going back to Jeremy. This isn't character development because we're not developing the character. This is character definition. We're defining who Kirk is. We're not developing who he is from who he was. So, just kind of different terminology there. I'm not a cinema critic, but I do know that character development is when something changes and develops, right? But also visual cues are much better than audio cues, because a lot of TV shows these days, they treat the audience like they're not in the room, and for a lot of the audience, they're not in the room. They've got their wireless earphones in, and they're off in some other part of the house doing something completely different, which is why you can watch a lot of modern TV shows with your eyes shut, and you still get enough context to understand what's going on. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, older stuff you'll tend to find less dialogue and more visual storytelling, and that includes visuals like having a lot of antiques in Kirk's house. So yeah, that's a bit of a difference, but it's one of the reasons why I prefer older stuff, because there is definitely a different style, because it was a different media being put in front of people, and it was being consumed in a very different way to how it's consumed today. So it's one of those that bugs me when people are like, oh, you just don't like new things, you just think new thing bad. It's like, no, I just think new things have a general trend, and it fits how things are consumed today. Anyway, so personal gripe.
Right. Also, that telescope is clearly pointed at the apartment of some promiscuous green-skinned alien floozy. Is there any doubt?
Yeah, I think there's a few doubts. Firstly, I'm fairly sure, is that pointing at the floor? No? Is that not pointing at the floor? I'm pretty sure also that's the wrong way round for a telescope. I think you're meant to do that so as the sun passes, it doesn't burn any of your furniture. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Floozy. Is there any doubt? Oh, now we get the curved fireplace wall of helmets?
There's 4 helmets and a chest plate. There's more pistols on that wall than there are helmets on the curved wall. Yeah, just cool, I guess.
Who am I hiding from? From yourself, Admiral.
Hiding from your shelf cliche.
I like how saying shelf instead of self is somehow comedy. But also, yeah, it would be... It's just really weird. This is 1982. This is less of a cliche at this point in time, but I would also say this is a natural progression of the conversation that's being had. So it's not like this is a cliche and they've just thrown it in because, screw it, we need some dialogue. It's actually pretty, it's pretty insightful stuff.
We are continuing our search for a lifeless planet to satisfy the requirement of a test site for the Genesis experiment. So far, no success.
The universe of this movie suggests it's really hard to find planets with no life.
No, it suggests it's really hard to find a planet with no life that satisfies the requirements for the Genesis project. So that would also mean having a planet in that Goldilocks area where it's not too hot and it's not too cold for life to exist, but on a planet where absolutely no life exists, including, as we see, even molecular forms of life. So, yeah, it isn't directly spelled out to the audience because, quite frankly, the film kind of assumes audience can put 2 and 2 together via context, but I guess that was a mistake in Jeremy's case.
It's really hard to find planets with no life. Futuristic communication displays will have terrible horizontal hold.
Yeah, this, again, when you see artifacts like this in the visual communication, that usually indicates there's distance. So that it's a very subtle narrative device. Again, visual storytelling. Nobody explicitly says, oh, we're calling you from X distance away. It's, again, just one of those fun little things that you get in older films. You don't really get in newer films. They will bash you over the head with dialogue to explicitly explain to you exactly what this means. Also, these tubes here, very famously, don't do anything. In Star Trek, this is a kind of a running joke in the fan community, because a lot of the technology is explained away in pseudo-technical babble, but we see these tubes in quite a few different sets in Star Trek from a few different eras, and it's never explained exactly what it does, and this is even mentioned in Airplane 2 that has William Shatner. Anyway, moving on.
Did they get this guy off a scrap heap from the Blue Lagoon auditions?
I don't know what that is, but I'm going to assume that is a good burn from Jeremy. No idea what it is, though.
I can barely see it.
Because this is a movie, we've beamed you down roughly several thousand yards from a maybe possible life.
Yeah, just gonna explain this one very briefly. On the Reliant, after scanning the planet, one sensor had one faint reading of a possible life form. And so now they're beaming down to go find it. I feel like this doesn't need an explanation from the film to explain why they didn't beam down directly on top of it. Yeah, because they couldn't actually pinpoint where it is. It's as simple as that.
Life form thing. Space breaking and entering.
Sorry, space breaking and entering. They're not in space. They're on a planet. They're breaking into a spaceship, but that's not space breaking and entering, that's just breaking in. I understand it's a joke, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we're definitely positive this place has oxygen, so let's remove our helmets instantly. Science!
You remember on the Reliant when they were scanning the ship thoroughly for life forms? I imagine they probably scanned the atmosphere too. Just a hunch, just a theory.
This asshole has 2 copies of Paradise Lost and 1 copy of the Holy Bible.
Okay. Just a brief note here. This is a ship with more than one person on it. So, you can probably deduce with your brain that 2 people brought a copy of the same book. So, that explains that. And as for the Holy Bible, I'm not sure why he references that, considering Khan is from the 70s, I think? 70s or 80s? Anyway. Yeah, would have been perfectly reasonable for him to, or at least someone in his crew, to take the Bible. I mean, he's also got King Lear, the statue of regulating, is that? And Inferno. So I'm not sure why he's singling out the Bible. But I'm not religious, but I'm not a Bible basher, so, you know, I don't really see the point.
Paradise Lost and 1 copy of the Holy Bible. We've been standing here in a sandstorm waiting for you to come outside just for this dramatic moment.
No, it's because they want to, trap them. And the best way to trap someone is, to take the exits. The only exit, really. So, yeah, that's what they did. Because it's much easier to grab someone while they're circled in from the only exit as opposed to trying to grab someone as they enter through the only entrance, right? So that's why they're not in the ship, that's why they're out here. This, again, Khan, very good with ambushes, but whatever. Also, I just realised, I think you can see Khan over here, because his faceplate is different to the others. So that's a neat little detail.
Starship Reliant to Captain Terrell.
Wait, that dude was the captain? And he went on a away team mission with 1 other dude? How many Starfleet regulations did that break?
Okay, few things to note here. Firstly, did you not realise Terrell was the captain when he was sat in the captain's chair giving orders like the captain would? Did that not occur to you? And secondly, Starfleet regulations are from the next generation. In the original series, they don't exist. That includes the original series films, which is the motion picture era, or TMP. Again, this just demonstrates Jeremy has not actually watched the show, because this happens all the time in the original series.
Movie unintentionally inspires Kylo Ren.
How? Just how? Bring up a picture of Kylo Ren on your second screen if you want, but it genuinely, just look at it side by side and just think, okay, what are the similarities? And you will find none. Just flat out.
Okay, fine. Maybe they briefed you on the existence of this guy Khan. But you weren't in the episode Space Seed, of which this movie is a continuation. You weren't even in that season. And then this asshole Khan pretends like he knows you. I'm not buying it, Chekhov.
Cool. So this is actually an interesting one that Jeremy mentions. And this is something that's already been addressed. So Chekhov was shadowing Scotty in engineering during that season. And engineering is when they had a direct clash with Khan. So that's the canon answer, granted that it's not actually explicitly explained on screen at any point in Star Trek, other than in the Kelvin timeline. And I am very hesitant to use the Kelvin timeline to prove events as they canonically happened, but that does support the idea that Chekhov was in engineering at that time. It doesn't explain why in the Kelvin timeline Kirk decides that because of this Chekhov should now run engineering when when Scotty quits, but yeah, I don't speak for the Kelvin timeline. I'm just going to use that one singular useful bit of information from the Kelvin timeline and move on.
Khan pretends like he knows you. I'm not buying it, Chekhov.
Captain Kirk was your host. You repaid his hospitality by trying to steal his ship and murder him.
Thanks, expositional Chekhov.
This is like a really weird one, because this is also very natural dialogue. Khan is going on about how Kirk abandoned him on this planet. Chekhov goes back and says, no, you were actually really bad. That's why you were put on this planet. So Khan is, he's basically just going off on Kirk, exiling him to this planet. So again, makes total sense for Chekhov to react with this dialogue. Doesn't feel expositional. It's just one single sentence for context for audiences that have not seen the original series episode, and it does a very good job, to be honest.
Oh no, that worm is about to go inside that ear-shaped Play-Doh.
I will say this, right? I'll genuinely say this. I always thought they do linger a bit too long on this shot, to the point where you can tell this is a prop. So, fair play, Jeremy. Fair play. I'll give you that one.
About to go inside that ear-shaped Play-Doh. I see the crew is still taking smaller ships and shuttles to the Enterprise, and they're still parking her in Section ZZ at Disneyland. In the last movie, the transporter was on the fritz, and it made some sense they had to take some shuttles here. But now that all is normal, can't they just beam to this thing? Second Star Trek movie.
Okay, something to note here. If you watch the film, you'll notice that it's very subtle. It's very subtle, very easy to miss. But in the dialogue, if you listen very carefully, they'll say that Kirk is going to be inspecting the Enterprise. So this is a ceremonial visit, which means, yes, this is why they're taking the shuttle. So they can inspect the Enterprise, not just, from the interior, but they do a little flyby, and then they're greeted at the airlock. They have a little fanfare. All the troops are lined up. That's why. So it's very subtle. It's very easy to miss if you say, don't watch the film.
Some sense they had to take some shuttles here. But now that all is normal, can't they just beam to this thing? Second Star Trek movie felt like the first Star Trek movie didn't slobber over the Enterprise enough, so adds more slobbering.
That scene is like a minute or so long compared to the original the motion pictures 4 to 6-ish minutes. So this sequence much shorter, but whatever, Jeremy.
I had a wee bout, sir, but Dr. McCoy pulled me through.
Wee bout of what? Surely that was.
Is this movie saying Scotty has got...
Yep, that's the joke that's being made. That Scotty, this is a question. It doesn't really add comedic value, because that's the joke the film is making. And it's also not a criticism of the film, because, I don't see it. So, in cinema sins, for those of you who don't know, sins are categorized into Jeremy's making a joke or Jeremy's making valid criticism. So it's always a bit weird when neither are applicable. So that's why I'm a bit confused about this sort of stuff whenever Jeremy says something that doesn't add anything, but then he'll just do a little +1 to the sins counter as if he said something of value, which he did not.
Gonorrhea?
First training voyage, Mr. Preston.
Yes, sir.
Well, see to it that you don't die tragically.
This might be a joke, which, again, not really that funny, because, it's there's not much comedic value to sink your teeth into, but it might be a legitimate sin of, oh, well, you're just taking time out to get us acquainted with someone, because they're going to die, and it's really apparent that that's the case. No, I would say it's very easy to just kind of acknowledge this, tuck it away in the back of your mind, and carry on with the film. It doesn't take time out to just massively characterize this person in a way where it's clearly, indicated they're gonna die. Marvel is a really, really, it's really guilty of this with, what's his name, Coulson? In was it the first Avengers film? Where he's like just being a fanboy about everything. And again, really sorry. Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., fun show, but in that film, without knowing Coulson, he is the most forgettable character in the entire film, and somehow we're meant to, 1, remember him, and 2, actually feel bad for him. And literally, when you go back and watch it and you see all of his scenes, it is just setting you up to have some empathy when he does die. So, very sorry, but don't. Anyway, sorry, that's not what the Wrath of Khan is doing here. It's very subtle, and I think it's just the right level of getting to know someone before they die.
To it that you don't die tragically.
Have you ever piloted a starship out of space, Doc?
Never, sir.
Well, it's easy. You just tell Sulu to pilot it out.
He's got a point. He's got a point. Jeremy has a point. Basically, Spock says, "Hey, Savick, take the ship out." Savick sits down in the captain's chair and just says, "All right, Sulu, take us out. 1/4 impulse power." That's it. That's all that happens. So she doesn't take the ship out. Sulu does. She just says the words and sits in the chair. So I always thought that one was really weird, but yeah, fair enough.
Take her out, Mr. Savick.
In the future, we will be calling women misters, despite Star Trek being one of the most socially inclusive properties of all time. I mean, why not just refer to her rank and no?
That's interesting. So they don't refer to women as Mister in Star Trek. This is a naval term. So in the 80s, that was kind of a gender-neutral naval term. Since then, we've kind of, again, kind of altered things a bit, because, again, it's not really a gender-neutral term. It's just lacking in room and flexibility for other genders in the Navy. But again, at the time, in the 80s, this wasn't a particularly offensive thing. Even though it wasn't inclusive. So, like, you're kind of half right there, Jeremy, but again, you're kind of digging into real-world politics, and typically speaking, Star Trek has generally been alright on that, although it does have some hiccups, but I guess he's got a point, I suppose, so I'll give him this one, begrudgingly, but don't let it be known that I'm being overly biased against Jeremy. But I will point out stupid shit he says when he says stupid shit. Speaking of which, I can already tell looking at this, his next point is going to be very stupid.
You might be tempted to think this guy down here is waving goodbye to the fleet's flagship, but really he's just trying to get their attention to tell them they left a coffee cup on top of the ship before taking off. His efforts were in vain, and a $6 coffee was lost forever.
So, the difference between Jeremy's long jokes and his short jokes is duration. Like, just that's it. You get the same amount of comedic value out of his very short, shitty jokes as opposed to his very long, shitty jokes. That's what I've learnt from this. This line here. It just goes on. It goes on for a long time, and then it ends, and the punchline doesn't have any punch. Yeah. Anyway.
Lieutenant, are you wearing your hair differently?
It's still regulation, Admiral.
It is? What the f*** isn't regulation then?
He's kind of got a point there as well, I'll be honest with you. Like, I think most characters in Star Trek wear their hair up. I'm trying to think of anyone who doesn't. I think Troy doesn't, and... No, that's kind of it, really. I mean, other than Klingons, I guess. But even Worf wears his hair quite short, so, yeah. He's got a point again. Well done, Jeremy.
May I speak, sir?
This logic-driven, nervous rookie Vulcan stops the turbo lift before even asking if she can speak freely.
Yep, so Kirk points this out. So I think he says speaking freely is not something you struggle with or something like that. He's making a little joke. But Savick is characterized as several things. Inexperienced, but not nervous. She's never portrayed as a nervous Vulcan. She's actually quite outspoken and regularly will just kind of either ignore Kirk's direct orders, like when she was ordered off the training bridge, and she stayed to ask Kirk a question rather demandingly, saying it's not a fair assessment of my abilities, or here, where again she's being kind of again not nervous, she's being rather bold and maybe not assertive is the right word, but definitely confident. So anyway, sorry, it's very weird that you can watch this film and think that Savick is a nervous character. She isn't.
Wait, based on this shot alone, how am I to know if I'm on the 4th or 5th floor? I feel like I'm on the 4.5 floor, just based on the signs.
Yeah, real simple one, Jeremy. These signs are probably numbering the panels, not the deck. Just, yeah, I don't know what else to say on this one. Like, just, yeah. It's clearly not the deck number.
Just based on the signs, this futuristic science station is composed of 40% light brights.
That's a weird one, because I would say this is a lot more than 40%. I'd say this is closer to 90% with a border. And I also like how this is the point where you sit it. This is the egregious panel, not this, not this, not this, and not this. Just this. And also not this over here as well. Just, why this one particular thing? Why? I don't understand it.
Is it cool that this mirror is a mirror that also has airport landing strip lights inside it? Yes. Yes, it is. Is it in any way practical? Well, I can't see how it possibly could be practical, so no.
Does it need to be practical? Just genuine question. It's a decorative item, it's a mirror. I mean, mirrors do serve some function as well, but considering where it is placed, yeah, it's kind of a decorative mirror, so why does it need to be 100% practical? Just genuine question. If you're going to pick apart the set design, well, I'm going to ask, why is this a problem? Because if you can say decorative items need to have functional purpose, why?
No.
We're the only ship in the quadrant.
As always, the Enterprise is the only ship in the quadrant. They should have named the Enterprise the Serendipity.
Yeah, this is a common one, but it wouldn't be very interesting if we saw Star Trek stories on the Enterprise where the Enterprise is not close enough to be involved in the story. Which is why we only see stories where the Enterprise is the ship in the sector. I would say that there is a mistake here, actually. So, it says quadrant, and Kirk says quadrant as well. Quadrant is different to sector. Sector is like a local area that can encompass multiple star systems. Quadrant is like a slice of the galaxy, right? It's like a chunk. So the Federation exists according to Star Trek Online, mostly the Beta Quadrant, and also overlaps with the Alpha Quadrant, right? The Cardassians are in the Alpha Quadrant, along with the Ferengi. The Dominion are in the Gamma Quadrant. The Voyagers in the Delta Quadrant. They're stranded over there. So when Kirk says the only ship in the quadrant, that's a much bigger area than sector, right? So that's a genuine mistake there in the dialogue, at least according to me. I might be wrong, but we'll gloss over that.
Answer yours. How good are they? How will they respond under real pressure?
Well, they're cadets, so...
Okay. Kirk right now is weighing whether he should go in to help Carol because he's just received a distress signal. That's what he's trying to gauge right now, is not just how ready are these cadets, but also how ready does Spock think they are. Which again, he has an opinion. He wants Spock's opinion. That's what's happening here. So, yeah. Again, if you watch the film, it's fairly apparent that that's what's happening.
So much for the little training cruise.
Was that what this was? What the f*** was the newly minted Admiral Kirk doing on a little training cruise? Thank God he's a micromanager, huh?
Yeah, so Sulu says, what does he say, sorry? Well, so much for the little training cruise, right? Yeah, this was, like, in the film, rather explicitly. You know when Savick was taking them out of space dock? For a training cruise? I think this was just part of the inspection, because they do it again in Star Trek 7. Have an inspection, go on a training cruise, just a little, quick run around the solar system or, wherever. In fact, no, actually, they explicitly, Spock asks Kirk for a heading. Kirk says captain's discretion. Spock kind of raises his eyebrow, thinks for a moment, and he's like, okay, Sulu, I will allow you to indulge yourself. Sulu, you may indulge yourself. And Sulu just picks a random direction, and that's their training cruise. And they actually, in that scene, they have the literal words, training, and crews. Like, none of this is ambiguous as to... And also, this isn't Admiral Kirk being a micromanager. This is part of the inspection. Anyway, sorry. I'm rambling on here, but it's just baffling to me that anyone could watch this and come to this conclusion.
What? What the f was the newly minted Admiral Kirk doing on a little training cruise?
He says newly minted as well. He's not... maybe I'm misunderstanding what newly minted means, but it's my impression that Kirk has been an admiral since the motion picture, which was in canon... how many years ago? 5 years ago, I think? Just the reason is Kirk says later in the film, there's a man out there I haven't seen in 15 years who's trying to kill me. And there's 10 years of difference between the end of the end of the original series and the start of the motion picture, which means that there must be another 5-ish years between the motion picture and the Wrath of Khan, sort of, for the timelines to make sense. But also, we're not shown exactly how much time he was an admiral before the motion picture as well. So he didn't seem particularly new to the job there either. But again, he's not a newly minted admiral. That sentence makes no sense.
Thank God he's a micromanager, huh?
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Now I can see why that copy of Moby Dick was haphazardly tossed on the top of all that divine comedy we saw earlier, so that Khan could completely ignore the message of that book.
Yeah, a few different things here, but firstly, that is absolutely something Khan would do, and not only is in character, it just is his character. So Khan will 100% unironically read Moby Dick, understand the message of the story, and his takeaway from that is, well, I'm Khan, I'm genetically engineered, I'm superhuman, I have superior intelligence. You know, this moral of the story is not necessarily that, or maybe it's not necessarily how revenge consumes all, but how Captain Ahab was just unable to exact his revenge, whereas I, the great mighty Khan, I can. Right? That Khan's planet-sized ego is just intrinsically part of his character. It wouldn't be Khan if he didn't have that ego. It's kind of why Star Trek Into Darkness gets Khan completely wrong. Jeremy here, he's tried to peel away the veneer and say, oh look, here's a mistake if you dissect it, and it's actually the opposite. You peel away the veneer and it shows another layer to Khan's character that fits so incredibly well and reinforces his actions throughout this story.
Well, I've got sickbay ready. Now, will someone please tell me what's going on?
If you don't know what's going on, then what do you have sickbay ready for exactly?
Sick people. Just gonna say that, sick people. Like, what else would it be? Because they were on a training cruise, they had an inspection. The inspection's over, they're now on a mission. Bones has gotten sickbay ready. I feel like this isn't hard to follow.
Identify for retina scan.
Kirk. Admiral James T.
Processing your obviously completely different expression from the previous shot, Admiral. How much?
I like this one, because that is how the film cuts it as well. Yeah, but that one works surprisingly well, and he also makes a little joke. You know what? I'll roll with it. That was alright.
Previous shot, Admiral. How much money did they spend on this high production value video about a super secret thing no one's supposed to know about? How many graphic effects artists had to sign NDAs just to get this thing made?
None. Or very few. But also, just want to kind of go through this line by line. How much money did they spend? Well, this is Star Trek. There is no money in the Federation. I understand there is resource. Oh, I just realized. Put this on HD. And it makes virtually no difference. Cool. Yeah, so money, not really a thing per se. High production value, again, I don't think in universe this is meant to be high production value. about super secret thing no one's supposed to know about. Well, no, Carol literally says at the beginning of the video, this is a presentation for, was it the Starfleet Science Council or something like that? I can't remember, but she does specify this is a presentation for a proposal for the Genesis project. That's what this is. So that's why it exists. That's why, as my boss would say, that's why they've kind of put it in this format. They want to sell the sizzle. That's something he says quite a lot for some reason. Again, you won't know my boss, but if you did, that would be quite a funny joke. Anyway, yeah, nothing like making an inside joke that nobody's gonna know. Very cool. Very cool. How many graphics effects artists had to sign NDAs just to get this thing made? Zero, I imagine, or at least very few, because, again, it's not really made clear in the universe that this is a big spectacle. So I think the implication here is, well, with the tools available in the 23rd century, people can just make stuff that looks like this. That's the implication. And you don't need explicit dialogue saying this. You just need the setting and the context, and you can come to that conclusion by yourself.
Is just to get this thing made.
Matter is reorganized with life-generating results.
And despite this lifeless moon or planet's distance from a sun, it will be able to maintain that life for some reason.
Nope. Just nope. That's one of the reasons why the Reliant was actually trying to scout for good candidates. So, yeah, that's one of the requirements for the Genesis project, is it can't be too hot and it can't be too cold. Again, this is common sense. I think the Wrath of Khan really gives people the benefit of the doubt, in that, well, not the benefit of the doubt, but just has a higher expectation that, okay, you know, people can engage their brain and use a bit of common sense. Not the case for Jeremy, not the case.
It's one of ours, Admiral. It's Reliant.
Okay, so Kirk doesn't know that Khan and crew are free and in control of Reliant, sure. But a quick microsecond computer search would reveal Reliant is the Federation ship assigned to Regular One, the space station Kirk got a personal emergency message from. So, you know, one sin for no individual or computer on this ship running a basic Google search for the Reliant at this point in the...
Okay, a few different things to note, but the really big one is the sequence of events, right? So they see the Reliant is in the sector. They try to hail it, they go to yellow alert, and then they get ambushed by Khan, because he's in the Reliant. What would change if they knew the Reliant was tasked with finding a planet for Regular One? Genuine question, how would the sequence of events change? Because right now, you're assuming they don't know the Reliant is assigned to Regular One, and although it's not explicitly stated they do know this, their actions don't rely on them not knowing this information. So whether they know it or not is really just semantics, because the sequence of events follows through exactly the same in both scenarios. Anyway, just, again, a little nitpicking of Jeremy's sin. When you just stop and think about it, really, it doesn't make much sense.
The movie.
They're still running with shields down.
Which is amazing, because you'd think that something like hijacked ships were just common enough that the Enterprise would be cautious in a situation like this.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think now in Star Trek. You've got this instance where Khan hijacks the Reliant, you've got Thomas Riker hijacking the Defiant, and you've got, I think at one point, one of, yeah, I mean, you got some doppelgangers running around, so it depends on whether you want to say hijacked the ship, but I think Picard has a doppelganger, and he tries to fly the ship into a pulsar. And I think Kirk also has a doppelganger at one point, so he has the mirror version of Kirk on board, and also some other version of Kirk, like he has split personalities. Yeah, a few different things happen there, but you're really stretching the definition of hijack at that point. This really doesn't happen that often. I'll be completely honest. Oh, and Dukat, he hijacks a Klingon ship. So that's 4 cases in the entire history of Star Trek. You know, all the films, all 13 of them. and all the TV shows, all however many hundreds of hours of Star Trek material there is out there, I can think of 4 genuine instances off the top of my head. So it's not like, the bridge panels exploding whenever the ship gets hit, right? It's not like that, because that happens all the time. This really doesn't happen that often.
For a ship that doesn't have its shields up, the Enterprise takes these phasers like a champ. You'd think the series of explosions in this sector would lead to devastation, but you'd be wrong.
It does. Genuinely, it does. Jeremy just skips over the part where, they're all, they're all screaming and running around, and all the cadets are panicking. Also, there's this part here where Spock says they knew exactly where to hit us and points to this diagram of a lot of red flashing lights. I will also like to note, doesn't have its shields up. You're right there. They don't have their shields up, but they do have their defense field energized. I think that's what Savick says when they go to yellow alert. Energized defense field, something like that. So, to me, that says that they have some degree of protection, but not full shielding. So, again, I'm not exactly sure what defense fields mean, but the film does it does say this. It's not completely left ambiguous.
Wrong.
They knew exactly where to hit us.
Except where the weapons are. But what are the chances the Enterprise gets a chance to shoot those up?
Cool. So, let's just get this right? In the first, in the initial pass, Khan basically does a massive hit on engineering. So without engineering, you have no main power and no auxiliary power. You're left with the emergency batteries. You don't have the ability to raise shields, go to warp. You probably don't have the ability to call for help. Probably. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. And you certainly don't have enough power to fire off enough phaser shots to get through the Reliant shields. If you instead, in your first shot, don't focus entirely on engineering and split your fire between engineering and their weapons systems, of which there are multiple weapon systems on the Enterprise. You have phasers and torpedoes, and even the phasers, you have quite a few of them placed around the saucer of the ship, both the ventral and the dorsal. Yeah. You are now dividing your fire, so your damage on engineering is not going to be nearly as severe, and there's a greater chance that they're going to have auxiliary power, or potentially even partial main power. Again, if you have a free shot on a starship, there is no reason why you would not hit engineering. No reason whatsoever. But yeah, anyway. Sorry, it's just one of those stupid little things. It's just like, oh, why don't you shoot the weapons? It's like, well, if you shoot engineering, you take the weapons out as well.
Enterprise gets a chance to shoot those up. Have we pointed out how amazingly crazy-ass lucky Khan is yet? Chekhov just happens to land on his exile planet, thinking it was a completely different planet, on a mission involving Project Genesis, something that can both create and destroy all life on a planet, an invention perfect for megalomaniacs. He wants revenge on Kirk, who also just happens to be tagging along on a training mission when everything goes down, and he comes to the scene gift-wrapped for a revenge plot.
Okay, a few things to unpack there. My first initial, we'll just go through this sentence by sentence, right? I also really hate this blue underline thing YouTube keeps doing. Right. Yeah, Khan isn't lucky, right? I mean, he's a bit lucky. He's lucky that someone beams down to the planet, but in terms of who it is, he doesn't need Chekhov in order to put the brainworm inside these two people's ears and then, convince them to beam them up to the ship and then take over the ship. Right? That's not something he needs. In fact, he doesn't even need it to be Starfleet, right? He could do the same thing with Klingons, he could do the same thing with Romulans, Ferengi, really doesn't matter. If anything, it's Ferengi. It's got a bigger target to drop the earworms in, right? But genuinely does not matter who beams down. He's just lucky that anyone beams down onto this dead planet. So that's the one thing that Khan is lucky in, is that anyone beams down. The fact that it's Chekhov, that doesn't help Khan particularly. It doesn't hinder him. It's just a thing that happens, right? So that's not Khan getting lucky. Yeah, on a mission involving Project Genesis, again, this isn't reliant on Khan's plans. Khan wants to learn about why they're on the planet. He learns about Project Genesis. He gets an overview of basically whatever Chekhov and Terrell actually know about the project, and decides, yeah, this is worth his interest. So he learns of this thing, and then he goes out of his way to really utilize this new discovery. But again, this isn't Khan creating a plan. This is Khan learning about something and incorporating it into part of his strategy. Again, chicken and the egg. The egg came first here, because eggs came before chickens did. Other creatures lay eggs. But also in this particular instance, yeah, Khan is adapting to the situation and just expanding his plans as he goes.
Planet, thinking it was a completely different planet, on a mission involving Project Genesis, something that can both create and destroy all life on a planet, an invention perfect for megalomaniacs.
Yeah, you know what other inventions are perfect for megalomaniacs? Starships, with lots of weapons. Really perfect invention for... Like, this is just such a nothing point. I don't even know what he's even really trying to say. There's no actual pointed thing that he's saying, oh yeah, this is the reason why this is absurd or unlikely or incredibly lucky. No, it really isn't.
He wants revenge on Kirk, who also just happens to be tagging along on a training mission when everything goes down, and he comes to the scene gift-wrapped for a revenge plot.
No, Kirk gets deliberately baited. So you remember when he gets Chekhov to send a transmission to Regular One, saying they're going to now pick up the Genesis project as per Admiral Kirk's orders, and Carol's like, no, you're 3 months early. You know, we still have 3 months to do our stuff. And then Reliant just says, yeah, no, we're picking it up. Take it up with Kirk. And then they do. Carol, hails Kirk, rather distressed, and says they're taking away Genesis. Why did you give the order? And that's how Khan baited Kirk into coming here. So, if anything, the fact that Kirk came so quickly works to Khan's detriment, because now he's running short on time to ransack Regular One for all the material for Genesis, which is why he doesn't have the material for Genesis right now, which is why he's asking Kirk for it. Because he tried to wring it out of the people, that didn't work. He didn't have time to check the full station, and he didn't see that the transporters had beamed it down onto the planet. Anyway, very long-winded explanation as to why, no, Khan is not just lucky. The reason why this scene is so good is not because, oh, this is a surprise attack, this is an ambush on the Enterprise, and oh, look at the visual effects. No, it's because this is a demonstration of how cunning Khan actually is. So we get these breadcrumbs and these threads, and then it all ties together, and it's like, oh, okay. Khan has really pulled the strings to create this scenario where Kirk is just completely on the back foot and he gets absolutely smashed, right? That's why Khan is such a great villain, because otherwise you just get this very bland battle scene that just plays out like Star Trek X. And yes, it might be a spectacle, but there's nothing interesting going on, really. It's just two people punching each other until one of them can't punch anymore. Anyway, very long... I say two people punching each other. Two starships punching each other until one of them can't really punch anymore. Anyway, let's continue.
I've deprived your ship of power, and when I swing around, I mean to deprive you of your life. But I wanted you to know first who it was who had beaten you.
Okay, fair enough. He wants to rub it in. But why did he shoot that photon torpedo at the bridge a minute ago if that was his plan? That easily could have killed Kirk.
He didn't. I mean, that's the simplest explanation. He didn't. If you look at the exterior damage, that torpedo landed on the saucer. If you look at the view screen, you can see that torpedo, it landed on the ship, sure, but it landed on the saucer. These are things you can see with your eyes by watching the film.
You hand over to me all data and material regarding the project called Genesis.
Why does he need that from Kirk? Doesn't the Reliant have the same information the Enterprise does? Surely before he left, he tried to get as much info from Chekhov and Tyrell that he could, right?
Yeah. So all of these things are true. Well, I say all of these things. His last sentence was true. Surely before he left, he tried to get as much info from Chekhov and Tyrell as he could, right? Yeah, he did. And in fact, he actually tried to wring information from the scientists on Regular One. The reason why the Reliant doesn't have the same information the Enterprise does, well, the Enterprise is the flagship of the Federation, with a much larger computer, I imagine. So, yeah. Also, well, I say also, that's kind of the point, really, isn't it? Just these computers from the 80s, they have these very unique style computers. It's not standardized. And they have different libraries of different information. And the Reliant just doesn't have the information Khan needs. Yeah, they're just really simple and straightforward. You can get this from the context of the dialogue.
Right? This is some bullshit just so Kirk can buy the time necessary to escape.
Admiral, it's coming through now, Khan.
Khan is kind of a stupid fucking idiot to fall for this stalling tactic counterattack, no?
No, he's not. Because a couple of things. One, if Khan said, alright, I'll give you an hour to repair your ship enough to give me the files, and then just close the view screen, yeah, Khan would be a moron, but that's not what happens. Also, you can see here the bridge very thoroughly does not have any scorch marks on it. Just wanted to point that one out. But yeah, Khan gives Kirk 1 minute. He gives him 60 seconds and is constantly pestering Kirk. So the fact that Khan doesn't see Kirk being able to mount a counterattack within 60 seconds is not to the detriment of Khan's character. It is to the benefit of Kirk's character, right? We saw how Khan can be completely ruthless and cunning. We now see how intelligent and knowledgeable and experienced Kirk is. So again, it's a back and forth, but just because Kirk now has the upper hand through his ingenuity does not mean that Khan is being a moron in allowing this to happen. Again, just watch the film, you know.
Tactic counterattack, no?
Lock phasers on target and await my command.
Phasers locked.
Awesome, but a minute ago when Reliant locked phasers on you prior to firing, you could tell.
Lock phasers on target.
Locking phasers on target.
They're locking phasers.
So what gives, yo?
Meantime, let's...
Firstly, that egregious use of the word yo. But secondly, Jeremy actually has a point here. As far as I can tell, yeah, Spock here, who's on the science station for some reason, who can tell that the Defiant is locking phasers, which is a bit weird, because tactical is over kind of this way. The only thing I can think of is the guy who was on tactical on the Reliant. Where is he? No, not this guy.
Locking phasers on
that
target.
Guy. The only thing I can think of is this guy might not be on tactical. Maybe. But the film doesn't really tell us that nobody replaced him on tactical, or just indicate that, yeah, their bridge console was beeping but nobody noticed, right? So Jeremy actually has a valid point here. Well done, right? Genuinely, well done to Jeremy. He's paid attention.
They're locking phasers.
So what gives, yo?
Meantime, let's find out how badly we've been hurt.
Screenwriter timing allows for this tragic real-life answer to Kirk's rhetorical question.
I guess you're not wrong, but I don't really want to say you're right, because this doesn't feel like a particularly egregious case. You know, it doesn't feel like a super obvious, oh, they're doing this on purpose deliberately, but, you know, whatever.
Also, can you think of any reason the chief engineer would leave the engine room carrying a dead body and show up on the bridge like this?
I mean, he's got a point. He doesn't say he should have taken this guy to a sickbay. He doesn't say, oh, why did you take him here instead of sickbay? But that is kind of implied of what he's saying. So I'm going to give him this one, actually. So well done, Jeremy. You've got 3 in a row. I'm surprised.
Kirk tours the overflowing emergency room of his own making, which, good for him, facing his demons, tending to his flock. But it's kind of downright unbelievable not one of these injured or maimed patients calls Kirk out for wantonly ignoring the call to raise shields at a time that would have avoided all this carnage. Not one boo or anything.
Cool. Something I want to note here, between them being injured and them getting here, I don't think anyone sat them down and had that conversation with them and said, "Oh, by the way, the reason why we were attacked is because Kirk didn't raise the shields." Yeah. Also, uh, just like a little, just a tiny, tiny, tiny one, right? Very small. None of these people were on the bridge either. I don't think. I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but most of these people are either engineering or not bridge officers. So, yeah. Uh, but also, Kirk knows that this is his fault. He blames himself already. He actively, he even says, "You know what, Mr. Savick, you keep on quoting regulations." He even explicitly says, "Yeah, I should have listened to you." So it's not really an ambiguous thing. If anything, Kirk is kind of here to beat himself up a bit as well. Because, but you know what? It's genuinely. I mean, I guess part of it is, yeah, he's here to beat himself up, but I think part of it is him just being a good leader as well. Because I remember Churchill in World War II, he did a similar thing. He'll visit injured soldiers. Yes, that was for a shoot, for propaganda, but on the other side, Adolf Hitler, who was head of the Nazi Party, I'm saying that because loads of people are very afraid to say that on YouTube for some reason. I don't really care. But he very actively did not want to see wounded soldiers. And in fact, there was at one point when he was on the train going somewhere, he saw a train coming back from the front full of wounded soldiers. They gave him a wave and a smile. He closed the curtains. You know, that's the sort of person he was. So, yeah, this is, again, just demonstrating Kirk as a good leader with empathy, but also regret and enough self-awareness to acknowledge that, yeah, this situation is his fault. Anyway, I feel like I've rambled on for a while here.
Out for wantonly ignoring the call to raise shields at a time that would have avoided all this carnage. Not one boo or anything.
Is the word given, Admiral?
The word is given.
What? What word? What does this exchange mean? You're allowed to die, kid?
Pretty much, yeah. This kid obviously reveres Captain Kirk. Sees him as, you know, a bit of a personal hero, maybe. But yeah, I feel like this is, given the dynamic between these two, perfectly reasonable exchange.
Who is at your post, Scotty? While you cry over one dead trainee of many, who's fixing the goddamn ship and doing their duty right now, huh?
Yeah, it's really weird, but this is in response to Scotty saying he didn't leave his post when all the trainees ran. But in reference to this chap here who's now dead. So Scotty, I mean, from context, you can understand Scotty's a bit shaken by this, and understandably so. You know, he obviously liked this guy. So, who's at your post? If you take one look at Scotty, he kind of looks like he should be in sickbay. To be honest, he looks like he could do with, you know, a bit of a dermal regenerator kind of, you know, a bit of a once over. But yeah, also, these are humans, Jeremy. The immediate threat is gone, and, you know, if everyone behaved 100% logically to maximize their productive output, yeah, they wouldn't exactly be people then, would they? So, yeah, these are humans. They do human things. Sometimes those human things are go to sick bay, and take your wounded to sick bay and have maybe a minute or so to be with them in their final moments, and maybe take another minute or so to grieve, and maybe take a little bit more time to, you know, get seen to by a doctor. Yeah, this, I don't know what his point is here. It's like, well, Scotty should always be in engineering at all times, regardless of what's happening elsewhere. It's just such a stupid point.
Eh? What?
Engine room reports auxiliary power restored. We can proceed at impulse power.
And the trainees down there in the engine room did it all without the help of seasoned veteran Scotty, who was in f***ing sickbay crying over a dead kid. Also,
okay, a few different things to note here. Firstly, Scotty says I can have auxiliary power ready in a few minutes when they're under attack, and Kirk says we don't have a few minutes. So just by the dialogue, you already know that restoring auxiliary power is not something that's going to take hours. It's a fairly quick one, right? So the fact that the trainees did this without Mr. Scott's help, not exactly, inconsistent. But also the fact that this guy's, I say this guy, Scott, not Scott, Jeremy, is ragging on Scotty for being in sickbay crying over a trainee. It's just such a stupid one. Like, what? Why? How is this to the film's detriment, and how is this to Scotty as a character? How is this to his detriment? If anything, this is one of, and again, you don't get many moments where Scotty is characterized, but it is one of the few moments where Scotty is characterized as doing something other than, we're giving it all she's got, Captain, or I'm going to be the classic cheeky drunk Scotsman. This is genuinely like one of the better moments that Mr. Scott gets, and the fact that you're shitting all over it really just doesn't make sense to me, I'll be honest.
The engine room did it all without the help of seasoned veteran Scotty, who was in f***ing sickbay crying over a dead kid.
So, of all the times to say fuck, like, really, this moment? It just seems so weird. It's like, it's not even that big of a deal, but he's out here saying fuck. It's like, why? And also, why censor the word fuck? Genuinely, Jeremy is one who makes, like, wank jokes, sex jokes, anal jokes. He will make jokes about pedophiles, but he's gonna censor the word fuck. I just don't understand CinemaSins, to be honest.
Also, didn't they lose their main power before, and they just now restored auxiliary power? How did they do all that shit they did to the Reliant with the existing power they had?
Yep, so specifically Kirk asks I think he asks, what have we got? Something like that, and Scotty says, we're on emergency battery power or something. And then Kirk asks, can you give me phasers? And Scotty says, a few shots, sir. And Spock says, not enough against their shields, Admiral. Or Captain, I can't remember. That's an exchange that happens. So the fact that the Enterprise can fire a few shots, not a huge surprise. And the Enterprise doesn't actually do a tremendous amount other than firing a few shots.
Hey, we're beaming to a science station that might be held by enemy forces. Let's go with the winter uniforms, shall we?
How are these winter uniforms? They're coats, but they're not particularly padded. And to my understanding, they put these on because they have more pockets for things like, tricorders and phasers and what have you. So, to me, this just makes sense.
Somehow, despite all logic and Starfleet regulations, this away team includes the captain, the chief doctor, and a brand new recruit with no experience, making it the least logical away team in the history of Star Trek.
Okay, few things to note here. Captain is allowed to go on away missions at this point in the franchise. TNG starts with that regulation. Chief Doctor, well, Bones goes on away missions all the time, and in fact, I think in pretty much every series of Star Trek, you're going to see the chief medical officer down on a away mission quite frequently. But yeah, Kirk says they might have wounded. Who can you spare? And Bones says, I can spare me. So that was kind of Bones' decision. And then Savick kind of invites herself along by saying something like General Order 16, no senior flag officer may be beamed down to an away mission without armed escort, something like that. And then Kirk says, there's no such regulation. And then kind of Savick gives him a bit of a, oh, okay, look, like a what's the right way to describe the look? I don't know. But basically, it's like, yeah, okay, I made it up, but can I go with, please? It's kind of like, it's kind of like that kid looking up at you, like, have you got games on your iPad look? Like, I know I'm being cheeky, but I'm going to ask anyway. Not cheeky in that, but cheeky in the sense of, maybe not outraged. Anyway, I'm rambling. But basically, if you just watch the film, all of this happens in a fairly natural way. It's not like they just beam down and don't explain how and why this selection of characters are here on this station.
captain, the chief doctor, and a brand new recruit with no experience, making it the least
Also, Savick is a lieutenant. I don't think she's a brand new recruit with no experience. She has some experience.
logical away team in the history of Star Trek. What? Is this an even more ridiculous rat than the one that shows up in a vent at CIA headquarters in Mission Impossible? Or did Scorsese possibly direct?
Sorry, I'm just going to stop and write here. You know, in a research facility, they might conduct experiments. And some of those experiments you might need to conduct on some, I don't know, a biological sample. And that might even need to be a living creature. And if only there was a term for, small biological creatures, small mammals even, that exist in scientific facilities for the purpose of being experimented on in perhaps even some sort of laboratory. If only there was a term coined for that.
Direct this character.
Sorry, lab rat, by the way.
Accidentally bumps into dead appendages cliche. Now I know where Jurassic Park got it.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I've not seen this one too often to the point where it's a cliche. Like, I've seen it in this and Jurassic Park. I can't think of any others. I'm not sure why Jeremy is saying this is a cliche.
This movie mistook blood for super bright red paint.
Actually, I think the shade looks fine, to be honest, right?
He possibly direct this character accidentally bumps into dead appendages cliche. Now I know where Jurassic Park got it.
Is this not the color of blood? Is this not just what blood looks like? No?
This movie mistook blood for super bright red paint.
He put creatures in our bodies.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's going to say here. Sorry, I've seen this video a few times, but this one is the most egregious one of them all.
To control our minds.
And he's hoping you'll forget how stupid it would be for him to take them out before you got here, so that he can trick you again.
Yeah. There's literally dialogue saying he thought he controlled us, but we resisted, and stuff like that. And then also you have the fact that they are in they're in the box hiding as well, away from Khan. So again, just listen to the dialogue in the film and it's explained.
Did you make it down here?
It was not my impression. He spent most of his time trying to wring the information out of the people.
Khan apparently tried to extract information from everybody on this base, but somehow didn't scour the area looking for a place like this, which would have told him everything.
Okay, no. The transporter room wouldn't have told him everything. Just simple facts. But secondly, what was his... Let's go line by line. Yep, Khan apparently... Yep. Somehow didn't scour the area. Yeah, it's explained why he didn't scour the area by Terrell over here in a really, really well-delivered little monologue, where he kind of explains how Khan, the events... Because we see the aftermath, and then we see from Terrell a recount of the events from his point of view, from his perspective. And he does a really good job. I'm blanking on the actor's name here, but he's fantastic. He genuinely brilliant in this role. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's such a memorable point in the film where he describes that Khan didn't come down here because he was late. He had to go over to blow you to smithereens. You referring to Kirk, the person he's talking to. Anyway, sorry. It's pet peeve.
Which would have told him everything.
The unit's been left on, which means nobody remained to turn it off.
Because, as we all know, Star Trek transporter rooms are turned to the off switch after every successful transportation.
Well, I mean, if the transporter room is empty and not in use, the implication is the transporter is switched off, yeah. And the fact that it is switched on means that no one was behind to turn it off after the transport, so that kind of implies that someone beamed down and no one was there to switch it off afterwards. So this makes sense, Jeremy. Just the logical through line the film presents to us does make sense if you just think for a moment.
Admiral, if we go by the book, like Lieutenant Savick...
Look, Khan is a super genius, okay? The fact that he doesn't realize he's being tricked right here is insane. Hey...
A few things. So firstly, Jeremy actually skips past the bit where it's arguably the most obvious that Spock is speaking in code right now. So Jeremy just skips right past that. Secondly, on my first watch through of this, granted I was a kid, but I didn't know that they were speaking in code, and I imagine most of the audience probably didn't twig on that either. So yes, Khan is a super genius, so you could make an argument that he should have known, but it's not so outrageous to believe that he didn't twig. I suppose, just because, again, I imagine a lot of the audience probably also didn't twig. If you watch this and you did twig, fair enough. I'll quite happily accept that I'm in the wrong and Jeremy deserves the point, but if on your very first watch through, without hindsight, you didn't clock on to this, then it's kind of reasonable that Khan also didn't.
Hey, Lieutenant Savick, don't bother scanning for life forms down here or anything. That's not important at all.
Yep. You see right now, she looks over in this direction and starts talking. That's because what she's looking at is Genesis. So that's what's got her attention right now, not scanning for life forms. That's the reason why she doesn't do that. Again, watch the film, you understand the things that happen in the film.
By the book, indeed.
I'm sorry, Admiral.
Mind control slugs apparently leave enough of the original brain behind to allow for apologies like this, I guess.
The mind control slug doesn't replace the brain. It just makes them more open to suggestion and coercion. That was explicitly explained by Khan, so well done for not listening to the film, I guess.
Yes.
You son of a bitch!
Well, as long as the character is unimportant, I'm okay with this accidental evaporation.
Yeah, Red Shirt gets evaporated. In a room full of named important characters, the only unnamed character gets killed. Yeah, that is a Star Trek trope, and sinning it, fair enough, I'll give you that. Well done.
Kill Admiral Kirk.
And the absolutely totally mind-controlled guys suddenly have a hard time following orders.
Yeah, they do. Because they know Captain Kirk, or sorry, Admiral Kirk. They've met him, Chekhov served under him, and Tyrell presumably knows quite a lot of him and has probably met him as well. But again, it's just like you're getting two people who really don't want to kill this person, two people who are very averse to killing overall, and now they're really resisting trying, they're really trying to resist. And you have to remember as well where they are. They've just witnessed what happened on Regular One. Again, I don't know the effect to which resisting this mind control thing has, but the implication here is that they're at a point where they're really trying, right?
Starfleet captain who was mind-controlled to this point somehow overcomes his mind control, which sounds awesome until I tell you he only overcame it long enough to commit suicide.
Yeah, we're shown here that the mind control slugs are hatching, and that is incredibly painful. And in order to, one, make sure that he doesn't get mind control to kill another person, and two, to get rid of the pain, yeah, that's what Tyrell does. It's a really, when you think about it, kind of a grim moment, and I'm kind of sad to see Tyrell go. I mean, the actor just, every line delivery is just perfect. It's spot on. Because the way he, like, initially when they Chekhov and Tyrell draw their phasers and says, "Don't move," the way he says that, followed by the please, it's just perfect. I don't know how many takes they did, but just, that one scene was, that one delivery even, that was just perfect. Because he really got across his absolute reluctance that he himself is a hostage of mind control, while also taking hostages, is such a unique scenario. And to add in the sci-fi element of mind control, and then the mix of Tyrell saying to, discussing to Khan, well, I want to obey, but I can't. And it's just like, there's so many things going on there. And it's not explicitly, explained via dialogue. It's not bashed into the audience's head. It's not, but it's just the number of things that happen and the nuance that it requires in the performance to communicate this. It was just perfect. It was genuinely flawless. And I am sad to see Tyrell go, but at the same time, I think for the sake of the film, narratively speaking, and for the pacing and for the tone, it makes sense to get rid of Tyrell and to do so in this way. But again, he is. I just really like the character, and I really like the way the actor actually actually delivered pretty much all of the lines. I'm really blanking on his name, and I feel really bad for it. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. Everyone has this little thing that they really enjoy about Star Trek films. I find usually, and this is one. This is my little thing that I really enjoy from the Wrath of Khan. It's just Tyrell. It's just such a great character.
And why does the other mind control worm want to escape all of a sudden? Did it feel its twin get murdered? Now it needs to mourn?
No, presumably it's hatching. I say presumably by when we visibly see it hatching out of Chekhov's ear.
Dude, at least let it crawl away from Chekhov for a few seconds before obliterating it. Jesus.
He did. We see it drop out of his ear. Bones says, "My God," or something like that, and then it cuts back to Kirk, who aims and fires his phaser. So, well done for not watching the film, I suppose.
Buried alive. Buried alive.
Khan. Also, dude.
Are you gonna sin just iconic moments of the film now? And you're not even gonna... You're just gonna say Khan, and then a little ding goes... Why am I here? Why am I spending my Saturday doing this?
You're tricking him about the time the Enterprise needs to heal, remember? Why are you so upset at this apparent radio win by Khan? Is this method acting?
Nope. A few things here. Firstly, he says heal. The Enterprise is a starship. It repairs. It doesn't heal. And this isn't really a trick. I mean, I guess it is misleading. Yeah, fair enough. All right, this is a trick. Why are you so upset about this apparent radio win by Khan? Is this method acting? Let's just recount what's happened here. So, random no-name pseudo red shirt guy gets shot. Tyrell shoots himself. Chekhov is completely immobilized. Khan steals Genesis, which Kirk really doesn't want to happen because it's such a powerful device and/or weapon. And Kirk also tries, and unsuccessfully, to bait Khan down to the planet in order for Kirk to try and, basically stop Khan, because he really doesn't want Khan to have Genesis. So, again, when you recount the things that have actually happened in the past few minutes, not counting for the stuff that happened on Regular One, all those people who died, but if you just go through all of that, Kirk has plenty to be upset about, right? Plenty.
Who is Khan?
Hi there, person who obviously didn't watch the TV show or the first hour of this movie. Let me exposition you to death.
That's funny because the only explanation Kirk provides to who is Khan is one single line, which is, now a man I haven't seen in 15 years is trying to kill me. Or there's a man out there who I haven't seen in 15 years who's trying to kill me. Words to those effects. But that's the only line that's given to answer Carol's question of who is Khan. So the idea that the film then launches into a big expositional dialogue piece just doesn't happen. I don't know what this sin is for.
How can you think of food at a time like this?
How could you not think of food right now, dude? Humans be hungry, yo. If you're not hungry, you might be an alien controlled by the ear slugs.
Okay, a few different things to note here. Firstly, Jeremy using yo. Every time he does, part of me dies, and it is not an insignificant part of me. Secondly, Kirk actually gives an answer to this question, and it is more amusing than, or at least just more interesting than Jeremy's answer. Kirk just says first order of business, survival. Makes perfect sense. And thirdly, if you're not hungry, you might be an alien controlled by the ear slugs. One of the effects of the ear slugs was never an absence of appetite. That wasn't really a confirmed symptom. Secondly, the people mind-controlled by the alien ear slugs were not aliens. It was Tyrell and Chekhov, both human. So, yeah, wrong on both accounts, I suppose, but hey-ho, you made an attempt at a joke.
Why didn't you tell me?
How can you ask me that?
Is this really some baby mama drama in a Star Trek movie? Skip.
Yep, so Kirk... Yeah, okay. this ties into Kirk's character journey, and to be honest, it also ties into David's character journey, and this also does give Carol kind of a reason for keeping. Well, I say gives Carol a reason. We're made aware of Carol's reason as to keeping this a secret from Kirk, beyond just oh, I don't like you, I don't want you involved, which isn't really the case, to be honest. But yeah, like there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of character moments, and when you say things like, "Is this some baby mama drama?" which I just hate the fact that I had to say. But when you say stuff like this, when you say, "Oh, why have we got these character moments?" Well, we could remove all the character moments and then just have, some stuff that happens between some of the action that happens. What you end up with is Star Trek 10. That's what you get. You just have some fairly bland stuff that happens that might or might not vaguely impact some of the themes of the film, and then some action happens, and then you roll credits. The point about The Wrath of Khan, the thing that makes it so good, is not the action. It's well executed, the action, but that's not what makes the film good. It's all, well, pretty much most Star Trek films have some amount of action. The point is the characters, the themes, the stories, the journeys, the fact that there is enough room for all of the elements that they do include to breathe quite nicely and to have a very natural pace where it's not being dragged out, but it's also not being rushed through. Something which Star Wars really struggled with in the sequel trilogy is the severe lack of pacing. You just kind of moving from point to point to point to point, and you don't have these calm moments where characters can just kind of chill and discuss stuff that's not relevant to the plot, stuff that is just character stuff, right? So you get a lot of that in the original series, but when I say the original trilogy in Star Wars, but here, this is, I would argue, the thing that makes The Wrath of Khan a fantastic film. It's not the action, it is the characters and the character moments and the themes and the journey. Anyway.
Genesis is not conflicted with the production designer about whether there's such a thing as too many waterfalls.
Well, it'd be a bit shit if Genesis was just this cave with one piddly little stream that comes down here. Like, imagine if this was just actually one stream. It'd just look a bit shit, wouldn't it? The whole point of this is to show the spectacle of the Genesis cave, and yeah, just a weird thing to sin, to be honest. Yeah, I don't really know what the point of that was.
Kirk to Spock. It's 2 hours. Are you ready?
Right on schedule, Admiral.
Wait, you spoke in code earlier because they could intercept your transmissions, but now you're, what, speaking in anti-code? Awesome Kirk is smart moment absolutely ruined by the inconsistent logic.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to comprehend what just happened there. So do you remember when Khan was listening in on his wrist thing, his wrist device? And Terrell was also on the other end of that device? You remember that's how Khan was listening in, right? Terrell had a wire, a communication device. Khan was listening in from that. Terrell is dead. Chekhov is no longer under the influence of the mind control slug. Khan can't listen in. Like, it's just so dumb, really, to be honest. It's just such a stupid thing to yeah. If you watch the film, you understand these things, but if you don't watch the film, then yeah, you just go through this video and think, yeah, Jeremy has a very good point, and then you go through and kind of upvote it, and oh geez, why does his motion picture video have like double the views of his Wrath of Khan video? What? Oh, this is a re-upload of the original one from... Oh, I'm guessing because he got copyright striked, which is quite funny. But 10k likes to 500,000 views, that is a shit ratio. Anyway, sorry. Moving on.
Because they could intercept your transmissions, but now you're, What? Speaking in anti-code? Awesome Kirk is smart moment absolutely ruined by the inconsistent logic.
We were immobilized. Captain Spock said it would be 2 days.
Movie suggests you can carry out conversations during
Funnily enough, in the TNG, you're actually fully conscious during the entirety of the beam process. I mean, we see when Barclay has this whole phobia about transporting, we just see from his perspective what beaming actually is. So, is it a bit weird? Kind of, yeah. So, you know what, actually, I'll give him this one. It is a bit weird that they carry on a conversation.
transportation.
They're inoperative, low sea deck.
What is working around it?
Not much, Admiral. We have partial main power.
Ah, partial main power. That explains nothing.
Actually, in that few lines of dialogue, a lot is explained. I really don't want to have to break this down, but I'm going to do it.
Right? Conversations during transportation.
They're inoperative, low sea deck.
What is...
Okay, so we see here this also has the letter D, which kudos for getting that correct. So this is a fairly natural thing for Kirk to do, and this is a very natural way of saying, well, the Enterprise is in a pretty sorry state. Turbo lifts don't work below C deck. We also know by just the English alphabet, that's 3 decks. So the top 3 decks have turbo lifts. Everywhere else does not, essentially. So, you know, well done. That is a lot of information that's being crammed into just this one sentence.
Is working around it?
Not much, Admiral. We have partial main power.
So Kirk then asks, "What? Hang on. What does he?
They're inoperative, low sea deck.
What is working around it?
Not much, Admiral. We have...
Again, what is working around here? Not much. And again, we see that not much is working, and that prompts his question. This isn't just kind of a blue sky question that just appears. Kirk asks this because he is prompted by the door, or by the door not working, to then follow up with more questions. So this is a very natural progression of the dialogue, but also tells the audience more.
Have partial main power.
Ah.
Again, partial main power, it means they have more than auxiliary, but not full power. And then Kirk goes on to say, "Is that all?" And Spock says, "That's the best we could do in a few hours, I think. The best we could do in 5 hours, I think he says, something like that. Anyway, point is, a lot of information is communicated to the audience, and it's done so in such a really very delicate way, because what you get with these dialogue that kind of, maybe not exposition, but you are explaining stuff to the audience that the characters kind of, well, one of the characters does know, but one of them doesn't. It's, you need to maintain the right level of explanation, right? Because you want to not under-deliver, but not over-deliver. Because if you are over-delivering, then you're having things like, oh, good morning, mother, who I've been living with for the past 3 years because I lost my job because blah, 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 blah. You know, like, you get that, and it's like, okay, well, this feels very awkward and clunky. No one would talk about this because both parties are fully aware of the information being discussed. Or even if, you know, even for situations where you're discussing things that maybe the other party isn't fully aware of, you don't want to over-deliver on information because that just comes across as really awkward. But then you don't want to under-deliver, right? So things like, okay, I'll catch you tomorrow at 10, and then it cuts to tomorrow at 10, and somehow they agreed a place as well to meet, when the reality is no such place was ever discussed. It was just, okay, I'll see you tomorrow at 10, and then they just meet up at a random cafe. It's like, okay, I want to see the conversation where it's like, oh, tomorrow at 10 where, by the way? Oh, at the cafe down the street. Oh, okay. I say I want to see that. I don't really, but you do notice these things, right? These discrepancies. So here, this is really good because this is information which Kirk would need at a level which you'd expect Kirk to ask, without over or under delivering, which also marries up with the information the audience would be happy with receiving, without over or under delivering with information delivered to the audience. So they balance both of these things really well, to the point where it's seamless, right? You just don't even pause to think about it, about how well crafted that dialogue actually is. And yes, maybe I am just kind of really over exaggerating the extent to which this dialogue was crafted, but to me, at least, this is worth noting. So for Jeremy to sit here and say, "Oh, that explains nothing," it's just like, okay, you're not listening to the rest of the conversation at all.
Partial main power. That explains nothing.
Sauce for the goose, Mr. Savick. The odds will be even.
What?
He literally explains what the saying means to Savick. What do you mean, what? When the film has the explanation in the same line of dialogue, why are you saying what as if you don't understand? You're saying what like, well, nobody uses that phrase. Well, I think, yeah, that's kind of, I imagine something that was maybe a bit more common in the 80s, if I were to hazard a guess. But again, just by context, you can understand.
Walk with purpose now. With purpose. Do these...
I always like these scenes where they're getting ready for battle. You know? It might be... It's weird, actually. This is genuinely a cliche that happens, but Jeremy doesn't say, oh, pre-battle preparation cliche. Just... I don't understand the choices that CinemaSins make sometimes.
These grates all need to be lifted up before a torpedo can fire. Because if so, that's f***ing stupid. And why is the torpedo loading bay super huge and open to human beings? Shouldn't this be a contained unit on either side of the... Oh, this is the dumbest torpedo protocol ever.
Okay, a few things that I want to mention, but something I have just now mentioned, just now noticed even. Genuinely, honest to God, I've only just now noticed, right? And I'm going to mute Jeremy because he's a whiny piece of shit. Okay, but look, this panel here has the number 5, right? That has the number 5. And then we look over here. Number 7. All of these grates are actually numbered. That's such a tiny detail. That's such a small detail. I like that. Anyway, sorry. Right, addressing the asinine shit that Jeremy is somehow driveling out of his mouth. Right. Do these grates all need to be lifted? Yes, they do. So you can... These grates are put down so you can more easily walk about the compartment without having to... You know, let's say you want to go over here. You don't have to walk around this horseshoe and then awkwardly shimmy around this. But also, so you don't step into here and potentially damage any of the rail system that's going on here. You'll be surprised to know that this sort of stuff, these sort of compartments that have weapons systems, they're not kept in a battle-ready state 24/7. Right? Surprising to know, I know, but that doesn't actually happen in the real world. Right.
Human beings. Shouldn't this be a contained unit on either side of the... Oh,
This shouldn't be a contained unit. So I'm going to refer to tanks. So for those of you who don't know tremendous amount about tanks, I will explain. For those of you who do, I'm very sorry for the long-winded explanation. But autoloaders have existed for quite a while, around about the 60s, kind of. Maybe a bit before then, maybe a bit after, but around about then. The French toyed around with the idea of having a turret. That's the bit that rotates at the top of the tank. A turret without any people inside it. So that would be a crewless turret. The turret's not crewed. The problem that arises when you have a crewless turret that is its own compartment that doesn't have any people in it is, well, I mean, yes, you have the benefit of it's much smaller and it's more compact and you can make better utilization of the space, but you then run into issues. So if the autoloader jams, you're stuffed. If the autoloader requires any degree of maintenance, you're stuffed. If you require any reason to go into that compartment, you're stuffed. And when I say you're stuffed, what I mean is you now need to go back to whatever engineering depot is around. You then need to have an engineer or a mechanic remove whatever hatch they need to via whatever means the hatch is sealed, and then climb in, sort out the compartment, and then climb out, reseal the compartment, and then off you go to the front line again. Now compare that to tanks that have manned turrets, crewed turrets, and you kind of have an auto-loader in a crewed turret. That's not impossible. But compare that to crewed turrets. To fix a jam in the turret might require something between, I don't know, 20 to 60 seconds, depending on the crew, the loading system, the shell type, the tank, the kind of breach layout. It depends on quite a lot, but you could have it as 5 minutes to figure that one out. That's still a significantly shorter amount of time than to travel back to your depot and go for repairs. Now, for the Enterprise, on a 5-year mission, imagine having this be a completely sealed compartment, which is a self-contained unit, and now that gets a jam. Imagine just the pain that would be to have a completely crewless torpedo control torpedo control bay. That would just be awful. But yeah, anyway, sorry, it's a very long-winded explanation for why you definitely want to have a lot of areas of your starship crewed, even if it involves an autoloader. In fact, my main beef here is the fact that the only way to load torpedoes, seemingly, is via an autoloader. So in submarines, they load torpedoes via a kind of winch system, because obviously they're way too big for you to actually manually pick up and move. But you chain it up, you kind of lift it up from the rack, and you on the little winch, and you kind of push it into the tube, and you wire it up. Because these days, torpedoes, they are on the wire usually. Or alive. That's the only thing I've learned from playing Cold Waters. Fun little fact, but yeah. Anyway, that's my main beef with this. Is actually there's no way for the crew to manually load torpedoes.
This is the dumbest torpedo protocol ever. Also, if torpedoes take this long to load and launch, the Federation is f***ing doomed, man.
At this point in the franchise, they do take a while to load and launch. They don't rapid-fire torpedoes in this film. They start rapid-firing torpedoes, to my knowledge, in Star Trek maybe 5 or 6? Well, definitely in 6, maybe 5. I haven't seen 5 that many times, so I'm always a bit shaky on my knowledge of recounting scene by scene the events that transpire, but they definitely do in 6. But we also see a very different layout for the torpedo loading mechanism. Also, yeah, the reason why the torpedoes are kept all the way up the top here and not down here is going to be because you want to keep your torpedoes in a very securely contained little armored box. So this was something the Sherman very early on, that was a very early on change for the Sherman, which was an American tank. So essentially, they kept ammunition on the sides of the tank, and yes, that was very nice and easy for the loader to load into the breach. But the problem is then, if your tank is hit on the sides, then there's a very big chance that those shells will detonate. So what happened was they moved all the shells into the floor, and they actually had what they called wet stowage. It wasn't water, it was actually a set chemical compound, but the idea was, even if you do get hit, and even if the ammunition gets hit, the chance that the ammunition will detonate is lower, and the likelihood of it detonating after a delay is higher, if that makes sense. Like, there's more of a delay, so that means your survivability is much greater. So similar thing here, if your torpedo room gets hit, you're not going to have a bunch of empty, not a bunch of live torpedo cases just strewn about on the floor or just open in ammo racks. So a Japanese aircraft carrier got caught out by the same thing, actually. So they were going to do a ground attack mission. They then switched. Hang on, I'm trying to remember the sequence of events. Basically, they wanted to do a ground attack mission on an American held base on an island. they then were like, okay, but we have reports of the American aircraft carriers being kind of nearby, and we need to take them out. So they kind of switched to naval attack stuff, so switched out of the bombs for torpedoes, and then they switched back halfway through. So they kind of switched a few times, and the crews, to get it done in time, didn't stow the ammunition, the munitions, so the bombs away correctly. So you had a lot of these live bombs just strewn about the flight deck, or not the flight deck, but below the flight deck on the, I don't know what they call it. There's like a whole deck below the flight deck, but yeah, and then a few bombs hit, chain reaction, very big destination. Japan lost a very expensive aircraft carrier. Again, one of the big importances of having your ammunition be stored in a secure place. So that's why this takes a long time to load.
Jesus Christ, do they do all this bullshit every time they launch a torpedo? Because
also, you have to remember as well, sorry, I'm going to go back to this, right? So Star Trek was screened in the 1960s, so that's 66. So that's about 20 odd years since the end of World War II. So a lot of people who are watching Star Trek will have served in World War II in some capacity. So, and again, you got another 20 odd years to 1982 from 1969. Well, not quite 20 years, more like a little over 10. So again, a lot of the audience right now, I know it's really weird to say, but they will have some degree of knowledge about proper stowage of ammunition. So, and even if they directly don't, they'll have living relatives who served in World War II who do. And you'll hear these stories. And I remember growing up, these veterans of World War II were just around. They were so much more common than they were now, than they are now, I should say. I find that really depressing, to be honest, because as a kid, I always loved listening to these stories. And obviously, they were sanitized by the old chaps because they didn't want to traumatize children with the war stories. But yeah, I always found it very interesting. Anyway, it's just a bit of context for the world in which the film was released in, where Jeremy might not have that context because he doesn't strike me as a particularly curious individual.
haven't I seen Kirk order someone to fire their torpedoes, plural, before?
Because they have torpedo tubes, plural.
Imagine all these below-deck performers having to do all this double time.
Actually, I would also like to note, the only moment prior to this where Kirk has ordered torpedoes plural to be fired was in Star Trek The Motion Picture, where he orders one singular torpedo to be fired. Sorry, actually, I realised in that sentence I said plural, but actually that was singular. That's the only time Kirk has ordered torpedoes to be fired. Prior to that, in the original series, to my knowledge, and again, it has been a while since I've watched the original series back to back, and I was not, when I was watching it, looking out for this one particular detail, but torpedoes were never mentioned in the original series, I don't think. They were mentioned as phasers. So that's an interesting bit of trivia there. Torpedoes were an invention of the motion picture. I think. And again, I might be wrong on that. Someone correct me if I am. But whenever we see the Enterprise firing, like in Balance of Terror, when they have like a spread, Kirk is calling out to the phaser control room to fire phasers. Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone here because I keep doing these hand movements to emphasize the point here. But yeah, that's just a little fact there. So when he says, "Oh, I'm pretty sure I've heard Kirk order to fire torpedoes plural," it's like, well, actually, you haven't. Like, not by this point in the franchise.
Reliant is closing.
I will give you the time before we hit the nebula, but I will not give you...
I'll just replay that for the context.
Double time.
Reliant is closing.
I will give you the time before we hit the nebula, but I will not give you any kind of time data on the ship trailing us that wants to kill us. That I shall leave vague.
Well, no information is information. Not clarifying is a form of information, so it would, essentially, Spock is saying Reliant is in our sector, and what does he say? Reliant is following or something like that? I've already forgotten, but basically, if that was an important thing, that Reliant will intercept the Enterprise before the Enterprise reaches the Mutara Nebula, then Spock will specify, but because he doesn't, we understand as an audience, that's because the Reliant is not going to intercept the Enterprise before they reach the Mutara Nebula. Again, this is just things that you get from context by watching the film.
They just don't want us going in there.
David pops onto the bridge seconds after the ship rattling warning shot from Reliant, during which we were treated to a shot of David not anywhere near the bridge, down below with the doctor and his mother and
That's a valid point. David does get to the bridge really quickly. So, fair play, Jeremy. I'll let you have this one.
Laughing at the superior intellect.
Khan falls for this.
Raise.
I'm sorry, what? This is like one of the best bits in the film, where Kirk baits Khan, and Khan gets... You got to remember, Khan utterly hates Kirk, and also he has a planet-sized ego. So when you see Kirk gloating like this, it's absolutely in character for Khan to react like this. 100% in character. It's like, oh, Khan falls for this. It's like, well, that's kind of the point of his character. If he doesn't fall for this, and he's not Khan. You know, if all of these characters just did the most logical thing that they would possibly ever do to maximize their productivity, like I get the feeling Jeremy would really love a plot where it's just two groups of Vulcans and they just resolve everything within the first 30 seconds and then credits roll, you know? This is part of his personality. Sorry, I'm rambling on, but it's just because I genuinely can't understand watching this film and not understanding that the fact that Khan falls for this is not a sin. It's actually a really good point in the film, and it's a really good way of reinforcing Khan's character, and more importantly, exploiting the weaknesses in his character is a very, very Kirk thing to do.
Superior intellect.
Khan falls for this.
Raise the shield.
As I feared, sir. Not functional.
Why is the nebula selective about what can and can't work inside of it? I get the monitoring systems going out, even the shields, but why not a whole bunch of other systems, like the ability to fly the ship?
Okay, this is explained by Spock and Scotty. So basically, it's full of ionized gas. That's going to... I mean, it does actually have other impacts, so you notice that the lights go out and they have to go to emergency lights. Scotty says... what does he say? The Energizer will bypass like a Christmas tree or something like that. Or the Energizer's bypass will light up like a Christmas... something like... Anyway. Yeah, basically, it does impact other areas of the ship, and basically, yeah, we see that. So, you're asking, well, why doesn't it impact the ability for them to fly the ships? Well, why would it? Because that's an internal system, isn't it? And if you're talking about, you know, the ability to fly the ships as in just to move forwards, well, we understand what impulse actually is on a very general level. So, yeah, we're not really given enough information to say, well, this should be impacted by ionized gas. And in that instance, you don't really have an argument to say this should be impacted by the nebula. Because, I mean, ultimately, if you're going to make this point, you do need to back it up. Because I can immediately discredit this by saying, well, you've presented no real reasoning here for why this should be the case. You've just said, why doesn't it impact other things? When the film directly shows it does.
Enterprise lucks out and ends up directly behind the Reliant somehow.
Yeah, the Enterprise lucks out here. It's definitely not because Kirk baits Khan into the nebula. Khan, in a fit of rage, just kind of goes full ahead. And it's not like Kirk could have used that information to his advantage to possibly predict Khan's likely trajectory into the nebula. It's not like any of these events would tie into the Enterprise getting the drop on the Reliant, surely. Watch the film, please, I implore you.
I mean, Jesus, there are no shields up. This ship has been hit 1,000,000 times at this point. It's on auxiliary power. What the does it take to kill it?
A few things to note here. Firstly, yeah, they are running without shields. That's correct. That's about the only correct thing Jeremy says here. He says the ship has been hit 1,000,000 times. You had the initial clash where Khan ambushes the Enterprise, and that's it. That's the only time the Enterprise is fired upon. And then now we're getting to this point here in the film where the Reliant is firing on the Enterprise and actually landing some hits. So when he says, "Oh, the ship has taken 1,000,000 hits," well, it hasn't. It's only taken a handful of hits. Secondly, it's not on auxiliary power. Do you remember the scene earlier where you said partial main power? What does that mean? You said those words. You know that they're on partial main power, not auxiliary power. And you're like, oh, what does it take to kill it? Well, yeah, I imagine a few more hits.
It's on auxiliary power. What the does it take to kill it?
I've got to take the mains off the line.
I have no idea what any of this means. The power this ship uses and runs out of is completely random whatever nonsense to make the movie more dramatic.
Nope. Just flat out no. The film does a very good job of making making it very consistent, even from like a perspective of I know absolutely nothing about Star Trek point of view. Very consistent about what generally happens, and that is the Enterprise gets hit, the power generally goes down. That's the trend, right? I feel like you don't need to know much about energizers and warp drive or anything like that. Just on a basic level, the film does a very good job of making sure that even the most uninformed audiences can still follow along, and not to the detriment of the more knowledgeable or astute audience members. Not to call myself knowledgeable or astute, but when Jeremy's in the room, it's hard not to. But genuinely, it's just a very difficult one to like. Scotty says, "I've got to take the mains off its radiation." It's very apparent that it's been damaged, and mains. How do you not associate mains with power? Like even just like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Jeremy's just being deliberately obtuse.
And this particular plot development will lead to Spock making a dramatic sacrifice until he appears in the next movie.
He's intelligent.
Here's the thing, right? Jeremy, he mentions a few things. He mentions the mains, and then he mentions this will lead to Spock needing to make a dramatic sacrifice until he appears in the next movie. So he makes the fact that I don't really understand what the mains are. He then makes the point of, oh, the power system is all wishy-washy, just does whatever the film needs it to do. Then he makes the point of, oh, and this is just to make Spock make the ultimate sacrifice. And then he says, oh, until he appears until the next film. So he makes 4 points here, and then he only does like one little sin counter. And it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly what point he's making when he makes 4 of them and none of them are actually valid or legit. Because he's saying, oh, until he appears until the next movie. Well, that's a problem with the next movie then, isn't it? It's not a problem with this film. It's weird to sin this film for stuff that the next film gets wrong or gets, I mean, not even gets wrong, but does something you don't like. And it's like, oh, this only happens because Spock needs to make the supreme sacrifice. No, it's consistent with the rest of the behavior we see in the film, where the Enterprise gets damaged. That damage can include the power systems, and usually does include the power systems. So again, damage being, forcing the ship to be repaired. Very consistent in this film.
In the next movie.
He's intelligent.
Also, I'd like to say this footage here has absolutely no relevance to any of the 4 points Jeremy makes.
This particular plot development will lead to Spock making a dramatic sacrifice until he appears in the next movie.
He's intelligent, but not experienced. This pattern indicates two-dimensional thinking.
He's not intelligent, Spock. He's a fucking genetically engineered superhuman whose inexperience with starship battles should not prevent him from thinking three-dimensionally.
Alright, a few things. Firstly, Spock, yeah, in his Vulcan way, yeah, what he says is accurate. Khan is intelligent. But yeah, that's not really the point of what Spock is saying. What the point is, yeah, well, I mean, I get you're making a little pun here. Well, not a pun, a little joke. It's like, oh, he's not just smart, Spock. He's not just smart, Spock. He's a genetically engineered superhuman. It's like, okay, fair enough, I guess. His inexperience with starship battles should not prevent him from thinking three-dimensionally. I'm going to tell you a story right now. Okay, me and my friends, we play a game called Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion. It's a space game, but it's all 2D, right? Now, I used to be really good at this game. I say really good. I used to be the best in my friend group, and then my friend group, as we got older, they got better at games. I got a bit better, but they outpaced me, right? So now they're the, uh, they're doing well. They're regularly outperforming me, in these games, and that's absolutely fine, right? Because look, we're all having fun at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter who racks up the most kills, as long as you all have a laugh. All good. Um, so yeah, uh, that's something that happened basically. So in my friend group, I would say I'm not the strategist. At least 2D. I played a game called Homeworld Remastered. There's a Star Trek mod for that, Star Trek Continuum, and it's a 3D game, and I played a lot of it single player until it went on sale again, and then the rest of my friends picked it up and we all played a game. But during that time I played it, I got used to thinking in 3 dimensions, right? Scouting 3D, setting up a perimeter and actually maneuvering in 3D space. And when I kind of just thought, okay, this is part of the learning curve, new game. I didn't think particularly it made a tremendous amount of difference. Then my friends picked it up, same friends who outperformed me on Sins of a Solar Empire, and I found that actually, even though they're really good at strategy, just the fact that they think in 2 dimensions and they don't think, okay, I need to scout in 3D. I need to make sure that my maneuvering, the maneuvering of my fleets are done in 3 dimensions. I take that into account. Even just trying to find out where the enemy is, not just setting up a perimeter as like an early warning thing, but actually actively going out and trying to find the enemy fleet to confront them. Again, just something they don't really do in 3 dimensions, and they really struggled to. I mean, I didn't want to kind of trounce them because it's the first game. They need to get familiar with the mechanics of how it works. But what I generally found was I could fly right over or right under them, and they would not know. They wouldn't have a clue. Anyway, that's a little bit of a story about how actually 3 dimensional thinking is very important in space, and just because you are very good at 2 dimensional thinking does not mean that you are very good at 3D space battles, right? Because it's not just about intelligence, it's about intuition and strategy, and sometimes just, it sounds stupid, but like just stopping and pausing for a moment and thinking, well, okay, I've checked this 2D plane, but how am I going to search, in the Z axis, right? I will also say something right now. On the Botany Bay at the start of the film, on the desk, it's very subtle, but we see a game of checkers. I think that's brilliant, right? Because that actually reinforces that Khan is a 2D tactician, not a 3D tactician. And it's just such a subtle thing that reinforces this line here about Khan. He might be intelligent, but his pattern indicates 2D thinking. I just think that's such a tiny little nugget of information that you almost don't even register. It gets put in the back of your mind, but it just helps that this piece of dialogue digest so much easier. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Very long-winded way of basically saying this film does something really well, and the fact that Jeremy is sinning it just indicates that he doesn't understand the film, not that the film has done something wrong, which I feel like is 90% of Jeremy's existence here.
Funny how these two ships lost in a gas cloud continue to find each other at the last minute on the static-filled monitor. These guys are playing Battleship, but with flashes of the opponent's board before they take a shot.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? It's almost like they're trying to find each other. It's almost like you have two strategic geniuses, very intelligent individuals who are, uh, yeah, kind of top of their game almost, deliberately trying to hunt each other down in this nebula. It's weird that, isn't it? Jesus Christ, man. Like, if they weren't trying to find each other and they just happened to bump into each other, or if they were actively trying to avoid each other, fair enough, but that's not the case. They are actively trying to seek each other out. So you're saying, oh, funny how these two ships keep finding each other. It's like they're deliberately, that's the whole point of what why they're in there. They're trying to find each other. Jesus Christ, man.
How is everybody dead on the bridge except Khan? Yeah, he's got superior physical ability, but not against, explosions, right?
He's got superior physical ability, but so does the rest of his crew. The point of him surviving is not due to his genetic engineering. The point of him surviving is just circumstance. If you watch the film and see the explosions, you can see how he just about survives. I'll be honest with you, he's not looking in a terribly good state either. He's struggling, he's on the floor, he's obviously not really survived, and he's not immune to explosions. Um, you compare this stuff to the to Kelvin timeline Khan, where it's like, oh yes, your crew requires oxygen to breathe. I don't. And it's like, what the shit are you on about, mate? Whereas here, he's engineered, yeah, genetically engineered, but not to a ludicrous extent where he's immune to explosions, right? So Jeremy here kind of implying that, oh yeah, he's not superior, his genetic superiority doesn't apply to explosions, right? It's like, well, yeah, that's why half his face is burnt. That's why his hand is messed up. That's why he's on the floor and he's invisibly in pain. You know, just watch the film, Jeremy.
I can't stop giggling at this engineering dude back here, who, from the looks of it, just has a bad headache. But hell if he's going to intervene in this situation, or even notice it.
Yeah, to be fair, he's just kind of holding his head in his hands. He's got like the classic, oh, I got a headache. Yeah, fair dues, man. Like, fair dues.
Here, who, from the looks of it, just has a bad headache. But hell if he's going to intervene in this.
I'll be honest with you. If he points out something valid like that, like, I'll quite happily say, you know what, that's a really good spot. I'll quite happily say, yeah, eagle-eyed Jeremy. He spots stuff like this. It's really good. Like, here's the thing. So CinemaSins back in the day, they used to only do like 1 or 2 minute videos, and it used to be stuff like this. And now he's doing, a 16-minute, 35-second video to, get the maximum ad revenue from however long ago he uploaded this. Because that was what pleased the YouTube algorithm at the time. But it's just like, it's really depressing. Really depressing to see how he's just turned to like this clickbaity thing that just doesn't really do much of anything.
The situation, or even notice it.
Engine room, what's happening?
Man, he waited a long time before calling down there a second time. Spock was still on the bridge the last time he called engineering.
Not much time had actually passed between Spock getting from the bridge to engineering. And also, we kind of see Kirk sit down in his chair, calls out for engineering, no answer. He then orders Sulu to, get as much distance as possible. Presumably, he's still giving orders on the bridge. Or maybe he assumes that Scotty is also just kind of busy doing his thing. He doesn't have time to stop and chat with Kirk. He's otherwise preoccupied. But look, a lot of things can happen, but the time between Kirk calling out is not egregious, to be honest.
Why aren't there radiation suits for exactly this kind of occurrence?
Why are... Okay.
Spock was still on the bridge the last time he called engineering. Why aren't there radiation suits for exactly this kind of occurrence?
Alright. I want you to imagine right now, at Chernobyl, right? The core's going critical. The control rods will not drop into the core. So I just right now imagine Jeremy just saying, why don't they have radiation suits so they can manually put the control rods into the core? They can manually climb into the core and just dump the control rods in there. Like, Why? The reason, Jeremy, is because this is a tremendous amount of radiation where it doesn't really matter the amount of protection you have, it's probably going to kill you. That's the reason. Anyway.
I think you better get down here.
You need to take a look at this cliche.
He didn't say you need to take a look at this. He said, I think you'd better get down here. Like, I understand the sentiment is the same, but the words are not. So, yeah. You know what? I'm just going to be really pedantic here, Jeremy.
Spock!
This is a room you get killed for going in. You go in here like when you're a technician at a starbase and the ship is in for an overhaul and the radioactive engine has been shut down for a while. But sure, let's put an intercom in there, just in case we ever need that.
No. Just right now, no. So the reason why this compartment exists is so if this gets damaged, the entire compartment doesn't get flooded with radiation. That's why there is this protective screen. We actually see someone during Kirk's inspection stood inside this room absolutely A-OK. So that's why this screen exists, and obviously if you have people in here conducting maintenance, normal maintenance, or just kind of the normal day-to-day running of the ship, and you want to communicate to them via this very big protective screen of what looks like transparent aluminium, maybe? I don't know. That would be a throwback, wouldn't it? But yeah, if you see this big protective screen, then, well, yeah, the probable reason for having a comm system in there is convenience, and maybe the comm system, normally, the wireless one, just doesn't work. The screen blocks it out, maybe. I don't know. It would make sense for a shielded compartment, but he's like, oh, it makes no sense. You'd only go in here if the engines were shut down. It's like, no, you'd go in here for plenty of other reasons.
Ship out of danger.
Gotta admit, Spock's sacrifice is one of the most badass moments of badassery ever badassed, and we will remove 5 cents for it.
Gee, I hope he doesn't shit all over the fact that Spock dies.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
He's dead now, but only if this movie is an absolute total failure. You know what brings people back from the dead? Straight cash, homie.
Yep, cool. Literally didn't even await one singular sin, and he's already shitting on it. Cool. Also, I did mention before, but again, sins for the next film bringing Spock back, not applicable to this film. Like, because this film didn't do anything wrong. It's the subsequent film that maybe handled the resurrection of Spock poorly, but that's not really on this film, to be honest.
His was the most human.
Goddamn, this scene gets me every time. 2 sins off for real emotions in a Star Trek
Gee, I really hope he doesn't shit all over Spock dying.
movie. Why are they torpedoing Spock out onto the Genesis planet? I mean, thank God they do, but that's not the point. Do Vulcans not have burial rituals?
Yep. So this is a naval tradition. Again, conditions of when this film was released, most people were either during, alive from World War II. I say alive. A lot of people were alive from World War II at the time, at least a lot more now, 40 years later, as of the time of recording this. But also, a lot more people will have known people from World War II, so, even the older people who were not really Star Trek fans, you'd still have extended family, uncles and fathers and grandfathers who will be very aware of what happened during World War II, will have participated probably, and will definitely have a lot of stories. So, yeah, from that context, again, you don't even need that context, to be honest, but that's the context in which this film was made, and burials at sea were quite common. And they were common for a number of reasons. Reason number one, most ships don't, have a morgue. And you kind of need a morgue, because otherwise the bodies start to go a little bit ripe, shall we say. And also, it's just tradition. You don't have the means to dispose of the body anywhere else, so you hold a ceremony to dispose of it here and now. And you're asking, do Vulcans not have burial rituals or ceremonies? Well, they probably do. And in fact, we do see in Star Trek 3 they do. It's kind of the point of the film. But anyway, Jeremy asks a rhetorical question here. It's not really a sin of the film. He's just asking questions for the sake of asking questions, while also demonstrating a fundamental misunderstanding of naval tradition. Yay!
Cemeteries? And that's exactly what walks through the door.
In case you missed that, Jeremy made a joke that Kirk said come, and Jeremy, because David is Kirk's son, says, oh, that's exactly what walks through the door. He tried. You know what? This is more effort than most of his jokes, so fair enough, but it's just really weird that he'll make cum jokes, but then he'll censor the word fuck. I just don't understand it, to be honest, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, I just, on an unrelated note, I really like the fact that David knocks on the glass here. Like a subtle indication that, yeah, the Enterprise is still in a sorry state. Most of the systems don't work, including the doorbells. Such a small little detail, but I really enjoy it.
Very proud to be your son.
Then James T. Kirk and his son had many, many adventures after this movie.
He's really not dead.
I mean, they didn't, because David dies in Star Trek 3, and also David is not really part of Starfleet, and within Kirk's line of duties, he probably doesn't have babysitting a scientist as, you know, part of his standard MO as, you know, commanding the flagship of the Federation. So, you know. Also, not that much time actually transpires between now and when David dies, so not a tremendous number of adventures he can have. I guess that's the joke Jeremy is making, but it just doesn't really feel like a joke. It just falls flat a bit, to be honest.
As long as we remember him.
And we were adventures after this.
Just going to rewind it for context.
Movie.
He's really not dead. As long as we remember him.
And we write screenplays with Spock in them.
Gee. I know I've mentioned this a lot because he keeps sinning the same thing. Probably to pad out the runtime, but I say probably. No, that is 100% why he's doing this.
Really, really, really don't want you to actually think we killed Spock.
This is the first time where he sins the fact that Spock comes back, and this is genuinely not misplaced, because this happens within this film. This is added at the end to kind of allude to, no, this was a soft landing on the Genesis planet. Spock isn't dead. So, yeah, you know what? Genuine sin. I'll be honest with you. Right now, it's not exactly disclosed exactly how Spock gets revived. So at this moment in time, it's possible that Spock could be revived in a very tasteful and completely logical way. So I'd be a bit hesitant to sin this, but I'm not going to hold it against Jeremy. Because just for the first time in a while, he's actually sinned this point at a point in the film where you can sin it. Oh, that's it.
SETI Alpha 6 exploded 6 months after we were left here.
I don't get it. Sorry, that's his sentence. That's the tagline for this video, right? The last one was Playdate with Stephen Collins, right? That was a pedo joke. So...
Ever since CinemaSins began...
I don't get it. Sorry, I accidentally hit the spacebar, but genuinely I don't get what the joke is there. That's a line from the film. I don't know.
And the most requested thing has been TV sins, and now it's a reality.
No, the most requested thing, I think, in this video is for you to watch the films that you're reacting to. Outside of that, maybe, I don't know, get some material, hire a comedy writer, someone who actually knows how to tell a joke, not just, oh, party on, Garth. Anyway.
Click the link in the description below to check it out. And now, the audio outtakes.
They're like, has he actually included it in that? He has. I might take a look at that. If he's done sins for Star Trek, I'll definitely do that, sure.
I'm your doctor, and I'm your friend.
I'm a politician, which means I'm a cheat and a liar. And when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops.
I guess, you know what? Kind of, I can see that. Fair enough. You made an effort.
Hey, don't open that! It's an alien
They do. They scanned the planet. I know. I understand that this is like the joke, but at the same time, I've already gone over this. Like, this isn't actually a valid sin, nor is it a valid. What are these audio outtakes? He called them something like I don't know.
My dear guests, I am Mr. Raw. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
That's the point, actually. Jeremy said, "Oh, how am I not going to make 1001 Fantasy Island jokes?" I don't think he had the opportunity to make any, to be honest. Like, just with how the film is actually constructed. Because that's one of the things Ricardo Montalban was actually very worried about, is returning back to the role and people not laughing because of Fantasy Island. You know, he was in that for a while. And so I think Ricardo did a really good job of just matching the same level of oh yeah, it does just feel like the same character. He rewatched Space Seed, I think, a few times to get back into the role. And to be honest, credit to the man, because I genuinely, that's a fair amount of prep in your own time, and then practicing in the mirror and getting yeah, fair dues to the guy. And I think that really is exemplified by the fact that Jeremy just didn't have room to make those jokes. So yeah, well played, Ricardo. I don't get it. It's just like it's a shot of the Enterprise and then someone screaming the plane, the plane. I don't. All right, okay.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
Okay, I mean, I kind of get it. They're turning on the lights. The Muppets are singing about turning on the lights. All right, fair enough. Okay, maybe I don't get it, but is that like a genuine song? Because I don't know. It just sounded like generic piano music. Does that lead to a meme? I don't know.
I guess we'll be going down together. I mean, getting off together.
That's okay. I'll just push the button for the stimulator. Elevator.
Okay, that one's quite fun. I like that one. Firstly, the audio seemed to match up quite nice, and secondly, The Simpsons is quite funny. Yeah, that one was good. I like that one. That one. Yeah. I like it when I can actually laugh at it and not think, okay, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense, it's fine. I like it when it's a genuine, okay, that's actually amusing. That's good. I like it.
Admiral.
Please.
Gosh darn it, I give up. It's yours, you can have it. You have to give me a minute to put it in a box for you.
Okay, I like that one as well. That one's good. See, that one doesn't work because his point of view changes over time, so it just doesn't work. Also, the scene he's looking at with the cat is completely different.
Deja vu.
What did you just say? On the test, sir.
How'd you do it, Frank? How'd you pass the bar in Louisiana?
Yeah, I guess that kind of works.
He's intelligent, but not experienced. His pattern indicates two-dimensional thinking.
You're just not thinking fourth-dimensionally.
Okay, that's a relevant quote, and that actually, yeah, I like that one. That one was good. Back to the Future. Oh, okay, that's it. All right. Cancel. All right, here's the point where we look at the comments. Yep, Scotty wasn't crying over some kid. That was his nephew. That's not ever said in the film, but I vaguely remember that. So, yeah, that's correct. That is canon. I think that might have been in a deleted scene, maybe. But yeah, no, good shout, good spot. All right, yeah, in the director's cut, yeah, okay, exactly that. Okay, good spot. Yeah, one sin for CinemaSins not knowing Peter Preston was Scotty's nephew. Yeah, again, a lot of nephew stuff. Simulation was revolutionary in fractal and algorithmic art, paved the way for most video special effects we have today. -1 sin for disrespect. Fair enough, I guess. Yeah. If the sin he made was actually decent, then I'd give him a pass, but it wasn't. So, you know, yeah, fair play. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to read this full one out because I feel like, I mean, it's a good point, but just not one worth kind of lingering on. Um, yeah, I should have taken a sin off for James Horner's music on this film. Yeah, to be honest, he did say in the first one, the overture, um, some admittedly great music is playing over a blank screen. He doesn't mention the music at all here. I think maybe he might be a bit salty about being copyright striked, but I just find that funny. The scene gets me every time. Me too, Jeremy. Me too. Yeah, I usually don't shit on the scene immediately afterwards, so that's I guess the main difference. In naval terms, Mister is a referral to rank. Okay, cool. Mr. is used to refer to commissioned officers below the rank of lieutenant commander or to subordinate commissioned officers, though the use of Mr. implies familiarity compared to the use of rank and title for unknown officers. Cool. I'm glad this person explained it in a more succinct way, because he is right here, 100%. So this is a naval term. This just means that Jeremy doesn't know what he's talking about. If the studio left the part where Scotty says the trainee was his nephew, their scenes would have made more sense. I'll be honest with you, I think that would have been too much to foreshadow the fact that this kid dies. And also, you don't necessarily need that to understand why Scotty was upset. Just being upset that a trainee died and liking the trainee is completely fine. Okay. Is this saying Scotty has gonorrhea? No, it's referencing the original series Trouble with Tribbles and Scotty's classic distaste of shore leave. I mean, there was that one episode where he got accused of killing a exotic dancer. But I don't remember this. Good catch. Plus for being accused of murder. Okay, yep. Actually... Oh, okay. I didn't know this. Yeah. Okay, so actually Jimmy Doohan had suffered a heart attack. That's what the line was referring to. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I always thought it was referencing Scotty's penchant for extreme alcohol consumption, putting him in need of a doctor's care by the end of shore leave. Okay. Uh, yeah. I just thought Cinema Sins was trying to be funny. I laughed. I don't think we need to dig too deeply on this one. Well, we kind of do, because that's kind of the point. Like, Cinema Sins is digging deeply into Star Trek. Why are we not allowed to dig deeply into Cinema Sins? Yeah. Okay. Had the privilege of watching Star Trek 2 on the big screen in my local theatre yesterday. ILM's simple, practical special effects were beautiful to see. I'm so tired of the boring, mind-numbing CGI crap in movies today. I wish that today's filmmakers would learn that sometimes less is more. Okay, this is more like a general sentiment and less specific to Cinema Sins, but I will say in Star Wars Rogue One, the CGI Star Destroyer that they used there was very well done. Although I would add that I don't know what the cost was to that, but I imagine it's probably comparable, if not more expensive, than the cost of having an actual physical model. Granted, you can do more with a digital model and you can reuse it and destroy it multiple times and, pick it apart, reuse bits and bobs, kit bash it to your heart's content. But, yeah, I will say this guy does kind of have a point. Practical effects, I wish they did make a bit more of a comeback, even if you're going to overlay digital effects on top of it. It would still be nice to have the base practical effects to have that more grounded feel. No sins removed for 62-year-old Ricardo Montalban's physique, which is more impressive than most guys in their prime. I didn't know he was 62 years old in the film. He was pretty cut for a senior citizen, and it was not makeup. He actually worked out to look more menacing for the role. Yeah, a lot of people thought he wore like a prosthetic chest thing, because given his necklace as well to hide the seam, but no, that was genuinely his actual physique. So good catch there, good mention. Actually upset there wasn't a Khan bonus round. I don't know what this means. Everyone else bitching because they love this movie, crying because Spock being dead at the end always makes me upset. I mean, yeah, I bitch because Jeremy was just immediately shitting on the film for killing off Spock. Um, yeah, to each their own, I suppose. He collects old revolvers as well as old ships, points at flintlocks. Yep, well spotted. I think I spotted this as well. Very good. Uh, yeah. This guy here. Yes, you should believe these senior officers would pretend to be juniors for the sake of these college students because A, it's a military college, B, it's one of the best ways for cadets to learn because they're gaining knowledge from people with direct experience, and C, they actually do this at military colleges in America. 100% true, yeah. I'm quite impressed with the comments here so far. I've heard that Walter Koenig was aware of the continuity error, but held his tongue to avoid having his part in the movie diminished. He also jokes that Chekhov was hogging a bathroom that Khan wanted to use. Okay, fair enough. They retcon in a book later that Chekhov was there on SETI Alpha 5 when they helped set up Khan's colony. There were several months and actually took place during the events in the second season. So actually, he did meet him briefly. Yeah, fair enough. Prefers Koenig's story of Chekhov using up the bathroom. Cool. I like it. Only 5 sins removed for Spock's badassery, 15 at least. Fair enough. Yep, funeral scene, very good. All this Sins video did was remind me how spectacularly the early Star Trek motion pictures were. Oh, sorry, how spectacular the early Star Trek motion pictures were. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Scotty's nephew, Khan. James Horner got an Oscar for Titanic. In my opinion, the soundtrack is much better. Fair enough. I'm commenting without watching the video. There's nothing wrong with The Wrath of Khan. Now I'm going to watch this video and rant for the next 17 minutes. I've been ranting for like 2 hours, 2 hours 30 minutes. Yeah, fair enough. You didn't mention the one huge plot hole I always cringe over, that no one on the Reliant realised there was an entire planet missing from SETI Alpha system. Lol. True. Genuinely true. How did they not notice an entire planet missing? I think what he was saying there is when the planet exploded, not that it exploded into nothing, but its detonation knocked SETI Alpha 5 off course. But then, of course, why would you think SETI Alpha 5 is SETI Alpha 6 when SETI Alpha 6, or at least the remnants of its mostly intact form, still exists? So, yeah, valid plot hole. Valid plot hole. Well done, UK Media Warrior. Well done. Spock's return was less cash and more Leonard Nimoy changed his mind about quitting as Spock when he was sorry, let me retry that. When he was what the character meant to the fans. I think this is why he decided to unkill his character. Yes, because he did a book about I Am Not Spock, and that was basically again, I've not read the book, so very sorry if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, it was I'm not Spock. You know, Spock is a fictional character. This is who Spock is. This is how he made him. I'm getting real tired of fans just saying, "Oh, it's Spock," and then he did a book about I am Spock, and revives the character and actually leans into it, because basically you have to remember at this point Spock was he was for Leonard Nimoy's career, he did Star Trek for 3 years. That was it. And between I whistled there by accident. Between 1969 and 1979, he was constantly recognized as Spock, this one role that he did for 3 years. And you got to remember, for an actor, this isn't a big role. This is just like one of a list of things that he's done in his CV. So yeah, like he got a bit annoyed by that, and you got the motion picture. Fair enough, this is another role, but he's getting a bit tired of this, so he wants to be killed off. And then he sees, actually, I think he sees if in the fans that this is what the character means, but also I think because even before the film is screened, once the what was it the I can't remember what it's called, the principal shots, once they're done and dusted, Spock then goes and says, actually, I don't want to die. Sorry, Leonard Nimoy says, actually, I don't want Spock to die. And everyone's like, well, kind of a bit late for that, which is why they add some extra scenes. But essentially, he says that before it's aired. I think Leonard Nimoy watches the provisional footage and realizes, damn, this is actually good. You know, this is a series. You know, this is genuinely has legs to continue. And so, but I think that's where he kind of jumps back onto the train. Partial main power explains the code used earlier. In addition to being a workaholic, Scotty is an excellent jury rigger. To get full power, it would take 2 days, but jerry-rigging enough systems so that the Enterprise could put up a fight was doable in 2 hours. This was code. Yeah, I think this is someone who's not quite gotten the point, but has tried to defend Star Trek by saying Scotty is a miracle worker. Fair enough. Still waiting for Star Trek Full Voyage Home. This person wants more cinema sins. By far best Star Trek film. Cinema sins has committed a sin. Those guns are not revolvers. Yep, correct. Scotty's nephew. 56 was shown earlier that Spock. Hang on, what? 56. It was shown earlier that Spock, a captain, did not know what Genesis even was, so it can be assumed that the captain of the Reliant didn't know either. Kirk was the only member of Starfleet on either ship that had access to Genesis information, so no, Khan could not have gotten Genesis information off the Reliant's computer. Chekhov and the captain had limited information about the project, which is how Khan knew about it. However, they wanted every piece of information, so that, yeah, fair enough, actually. This is a better explanation than the one I gave. So well done, Killer Orange Cat. So I'm going to... Yeah, fair enough. Some people like these jokes, some people don't. Fair enough. I'm going to leave it here. I've been talking for 2 hours and 37 minutes. If you want to... I'm going to carry on doing this. I'm going to carry on. So the next one is Star Trek 3. I'll do that next week. So during the week, I'm going to purchase Star Trek 3 and watch it and kind of take some notes and then do a big recording for this. If you want to support me, because it does cost me money to buy these films, you can do so at Patreon. Absolutely not required, because I want to watch these films anyway, and I want to own these films. So that's the problem with these streaming services, is they're on sometimes, but then they get removed. So owning it in one place is very nice for me, and it only costs me about a $5 per film, so that's $5 a week for entertainment. I'd say that's fair dues, but if you did want to support me on Patreon, feel free. But yeah, that is all I have for you for now. I will catch you next week. I will also have some Helldivers videos as well throughout the week. These are just videos that they're fairly easy for me to bash out. I'd say the hardest part is just picking a soundtrack for them. So I did Johnny Comes Marching Home and Command and Conquer. I'll probably do some other video game soundtrack as well. But I'm actually finding the Constitution rifle kind of good. I need to get better at my aiming, but you can one-shot everything that the game throws at you, with the exception of the Hulks and the tanks. But even with the Hulks, you can one-shot them with the revolver. You just need to have very good aim. So again, actually, Constitution Senator, that's the revolver. This Constitution bolt action rifle and the Senator revolver, really good build. I'd recommend taking a look at those videos. Kind of like nice idle stuff to just watch in the background, I guess. But yeah, I'll leave it that after shilling my own content a little bit, because I actually have content to shill now. So that'll be a bit more regular, and then these long form stuff will be weekly things. The intention for this is do it on the weekend, release it on the weekend. You guys have something to watch, piecemeal when you, I don't know, on your lunch break or something, or just whenever. The idea is not that you watch it in one big go, heaven forbid, because that would just be painful. Anyway, I've signed off about 4 times now, but this one is going to be the actual sign off. Goodbye.